This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate second and final part of What If Naruto was trained by Gotei 13. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. No wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Yes, Siafon replied. Cage started down one of the tunnels and said, "Very well, follow me." Ayame and Tenten both started to follow Siafon. "This is it. Through this wall is the darkness where the light is being consumed," Cage said. "I have fulfilled my part of the promise. Now it's your turn." Then he vanished and changed into Naruto-sheathed Zanpakuto. "What should we do?" asked Ayame as she reached for it. As she protruded her arm, lightning started to form around it, reaching her shoulder. Siafon said, "Well, we need to figure out a way past this wall, so..." She then ran forward and slammed her fist into the wall, creating a hole that was roughly 10 feet wide. Tenten gazed at the damage and exclaimed, "Whoa." Siafon entered the next room, which was completely dark, and waited until the wall stopped collapsing before saying, "Come on and stay close." Several steps in, she halted and uttered, "Stay close, I can't even see anything." Tenten arrived a moment later, and as Ayame entered, the room started to get brighter. A tiny glow came from the Zanpakuto she was holding, and it pulsed slowly. "Ayame, let me see that Zanpakuto. It looks like it's going to have to be our flashlight. We will have to take it slow and be careful," Siafon remarked with a frown as the light engulfed all of the shadow in the room. With a nod, Ayame hands Siafon the Zanpakuto, who gasps and says, "Look." She gestures to the side of the room. A little baby with facial whiskers was sitting in a portable crib in the room. The girls watched as a woman entered and said, "Damn demon, why don't you just die already?" She opened a closet, pushed the crib inside, and started to lock it when Tenten, who was furious, took her head off her shoulder. Tenten said, "So it's true. I didn't want to believe it when Yoruichi tricked Naruto into saying the broom closet was where the orphanage put him as a baby." Ayame and Siafon stared at her in disbelief. She grabbed the lock that was ready to be locked, removed it, opened the door, pulled the crib back, and gazed down at the sleeping baby before the room and its walls faded away, leaving behind a white square. As she approached the door and grabbed the handle, Ayame remarked, "This must have been one of his first memories then." Siafon replied, "Are you both ready for this? I mean, what I saw was worse then so are you both sure you can continue? Because I don't think we will be able to leave after this point. The hole in the wall I made is already being fixed by the light." Ayame reached for the handle and said, "Yeah, I made my choice, so come on, time's wasting." As she made her way to the door that Ayame had opened, Tenten remarked, "You coming, Siafon?" Siafon entered the next room first and grinned. Outside of Naruto, some of the scars he was bleeding from started to be gradually covered by the clay surrounding his fingers. "It's starting," Hiyori said. "We're just a few seconds away from having to fight, so I say 5. Who's first?" With a sigh, Ichigo said, "I will." "No, I will. He's my son, and we should go from weakest to strongest." Minato said, "I don't mean to offend, but you assured me that it would grow stronger over time and that I am most likely the weakest of the three of you, with Hiyori and Captain Kuchiki roughly equal." Kuchiki glanced at Minato, who responded, "Hey, don't look at me like that. Ichigo the strongest of us four, and I don't know how strong Hiyori is, but since she's a wizard, odds are she's stronger than you, if by just a little." Ichigo replied, "I have to agree. If Hiyori goes before you, then when you trade off he's going to expect you to go hollow as well, and when you don't he will attack you harder." Following a nod, they all turned to face Naruto as Kazuki and Yoruichi sat down in a triangle around him. Orihime's position was the last one, and she closed her eyes to say a brief prayer as her hair grew out in a triangle. Kazuki and Yoruichi then started chanting binding spells. As Naruto's arms were bound behind him, a stone pillar fell from the sky. Spikes then fell through the pillar and into Naruto. Chains then exploded from the ground, and a second stone pillar fell on top of Naruto's shoulders, where the first had been on his lower back. Ayame was cracking her knuckles inside Naruto as she withdrew her fist from the skull of a man who had used a butter knife to attack a 2-year-old Naruto. "You know, I am beginning to think it would be better if we let the hollows eat the souls of people from Konoha," Siafon said, glaring at the 10 men she had killed with her sting. Tenten took her foot off of a man nuts she had just crushed and said, "You know, I agree." "How far have we come?" inquired Ayame. Tenten stated, "Since we could see where we had been on the Hokage monument following that guy's attempt to throw him off the mountain, we have now fully circled the outside of Konoha. If Naruto is in the center as we believe, I saw that there would likely be an additional 100 rooms at our current rate." "Well, let's go then," Siafon said. "Anything, I have come to 3 different dead ends." Kushina sighed in a different part of Naruto's mind as she reached another dead end on her way to her third tunnel. She turned around to see Nemu and Emi both coming down the tunnel. Emi replied, same for me and Nemu here, but the thing is we both marked our tunnels as dead ends at the entrance like you have been doing, so there is only one left, but if so then why have we not come across the other three? According to Kushina, you think they all went down the same tunnel? Possible, but why? Emi said. According to Nemu, I think we should check it out. After Kushina nods, the three women begin to return to the central hub. Naruto was roaring outside at this moment, trying to blow the stones off of himself while power was blowing off of him. Kushina exclaimed, what the hell's going on here? We checked every tunnel, but they all come to a dead end, after reaching the end of the tunnel with Nemu and Emi. Or the tunnels were never dead ends but rather were blocked to keep us away, Nemu said, squinting her eyes. Glancing at the wall for any clue that they had entered, Kushina scowled and remarked, so you think the girls already figured that out and went through the walls and they've been rebuilt? Emi smirked as she formed a match, lit it, threw it at the wall, and ran back down the tunnel behind Kushina and Nemu, who remarked, you're crazy? Well, if that's the case then let's see what behind this wall, Emi said as she started to form spirit energy and a stick of TNT appeared. Isis said, I swear, that has to be Emi work, as an explosion rocked Naruto's arm and everyone blinked outside. Naruto was wearing a gold shield, and Minato was running around like a chicken due to cuts on both of his arms from Naruto taking Minato's sword and literally beating the living daylights out of him with it. I know somehow that she caused that wound. As she walked back down the tunnel toward the explosion site, Kushina, coughing from the dust that had been blown up, said, damn it Emi, you're one crazy bitch. When they came to a white light at the end of the tunnel, Kushina said, so, should we? As she leapt through, Nemu said, yes. Emi, observing the walls closing, said, last one in buys dinner, without looking. While looking at Nemu, Kushina, who was on the opposite side, started to perspire and said, thanks for dinner, Emi. Emi jumped through with a drop of sweat and uttered the words, why me? How did Naruto survive this on his own? She asked, holding Tenten's arm while she was panting. On his 7th birthday, he was attacked by almost 60 people, and it was a good one. That should be about halfway. Ayame, who was leaning against the wall, could only nod I believe. We can't stop now, Siafon, who was on her knees, said time is running out. A commanding voice said, what's going on here? And everyone flinched, knowing whose voice it was. Hiyori, wearing a wizard mask, was outside Naruto, kicking him with fast, powerful kicks. Kazuki said, hello Yamamoto-san. How are things in the 46th? As he turned to see Yamamoto standing there with the other squad captains. What is a hollow doing here in Soul Society and why is that girl fighting it? Yamamoto asked Kazuki, glaring at him. Time. Yoruichi said, Minato, can you go again yet? Ichigo asked, reaching up and dragging his hand across his face to activate his hollow's mask. No, Minato replied, my wounds are still too much. Change my time to 15 minutes then, Ichigo said, nodding. Let Orihime open. Ichigo entered through an open door, stepped in front of Hiyori, and kicked Naruto. Taking off her mask, Hiyori hurried out of the swiftly closing door and exclaimed, watch it Ichigo, he should be able to use Sero soon if his strength is any indication. While attacking Naruto, Ichigo nodded, now tell me what's going on here and where is Naruto and Siafon, Yamamoto said as he slammed his cane into the ground, causing her to drop to her knees and drawing everyone except for Naruto, Ichigo, and Orihime. The other captains appeared to be here now. Before explaining, Yoruichi said, please give us another 40 minutes, sir. We will explain everything and eliminate the hollow. If this hasn't been resolved by then, that's all the time we need. And why should I let this continue? Yamamoto scowled. Why don't I have the hollow killed and all of you arrested? With a sigh, Kazuki smiled and said, would you believe that it's training? Sweat drops fell from everyone's eyes, and Byakuya moved forward to say, if I may sir. Yamamoto nods, and Byakuya explains, this change is necessary to save one of our own lives for a number of reasons that I will discuss later. We will be forced to kill the hollow and declare him a lost cause if the procedure is not completed within the allotted 80 minutes, of which we are almost halfway. Yamamoto replied, what process is this and who is the one you spoke of? The process is when a living soul is forced to become a Shinigami instead of through meditation, Kazuki explained. It happened as a result of Kyuubi escaping Naruto when he initially arrived here, sir. He wasn't going through this before, sir, because he was mentally stable enough, but something happened between him and the new hollow. His bloodline began to attack him while he slept, affecting both his body and mind in an attempt to combat whatever it was that enabled the hollow to use Naruto's mind to attack his body. Kushina, Siafon, Ayame, Nemu, Emi, and Tenten have all entered his head. However, it also seems that because of the Chuas in his soul, he will either turn into a wizard like Ichigo and Hiyori, or we will have to kill him, sir. Yamamoto scowled as he watched Naruto, who appeared to be a two-tailed fox, battle Ichigo. He then turned to face the other captains and asked, "What are the risks besides Naruto's death?" Yoruichi declared, "The others will perish if Naruto passes away before they can flee. It's essentially a all-or-nothing situation." "Very well, captains, keep this room closed off to the rest of Soul Society," Yamamoto said. "We will all take care of this threat if it persists after the deadline has passed, to my understanding." As they started to close off the room, the captains all scowled but nodded. As they stood in front of 6 Junins and 10 Chunin, Ayame and Siafon were exhausted and on the ground inside Naruto. Tenten remarked, "This is terrible. Whether or not there are good people in Konoha, I will fucking kill them all when I return." With her Zanpakuto on her arm, she slowly got to her feet and ran at the ninja group, saying, "They will all die and be sorted out later." Siafon took a kunai from the last man she killed and proceeded with her Zanpakuto in one hand and a kuniya in the other as Ayame aimed her bow and fired a shot that struck one in the knee as Tenten took advantage of the moment of surprise and severed the man's head. A shout of, "Hit the deck, girls," suddenly drew their attention, and they instinctively followed instructions. After recognizing the voice, abrupt explosions followed, and all of the men fell to the ground, dead, with tiny holes in their heads. Tenten asked, "What was that?" As the girls turned to see Emi, Nemu, and Kushina standing there. Emi had put something to her mouth and blown the end where smoke was coming out. "That my daughter is an Uzi," Emi said with a smile. "The only restriction on our ability to call forth weapons, my love, is that you must be fully knowledgeable about them. You haven't seen firearms, so you don't understand their purpose, but you 3 did a fantastic job. I must say we should have been at the Hokage Tower or the center of the village when we last checked, but it appeared that you might have 5 more rooms. Good job, girls. But why don't you take a little break and let us lead the rest of the way?" Kushina said as she approached them and started to heal the girls. Siafon replied, "Good idea, we are all running on fumes anyways." "That's strange. Where are you at on his memories, girls?" Kushina said as he approached and opened the door. "The night he graduated from the academy after being duped by Mizuki," Ayame remarked. "Why? Have the doors been locked before now?" asked Kushina. "No," Siafon replied. Nemu replied, "Emi, we have something for your expertise." Emi grinned as a tiny object materialized in her hand. She set it on the door and took a step back, creating another object and removing the antenna before declaring, "This will open any door, remain back." Tenten questioned, "What's that, mother?" "My favorite toy, see 4 inches," Emi said, holding the small black object with an antenna, as she pressed a button that caused the door to literally blow apart. When Byakuya's body exploded outward once more, sending pieces of the hollow body flying, Naruto, who was fighting him outside, stopped and collapsed to his knees in agony. Yamamoto inquired, "What happened?" As growls escaped his lips, Naruto remained motionless on his knees. Hiyori replied, "Something distracting the force that's been fighting up till now. Don't attack it, but stand ready to fight back if you need to, Byakuya," Yamamoto said, nodding. As the walls inside Naruto disappeared, the girls noticed what looked like a throne room of some kind. With the Kyuubi standing across from Naruto, they turned to see the new hollow as he had been described. The hollow gestured to Kyuubi and said, well, what do we have here? Visitors come to play with my little pet." "Who are you and how is Kyuubi here?" inquired Kushina. The hollow replied, "Who I am you don't know, but I must say, I am surprised to see you here, Siafon. I mean, it's been over 400 years since I last saw you. Funny, you had the same face you have now when you learned Aizen was still alive and tried to get there to stop him from escaping." Siafon glanced at the hollow and said, "Who are you?" The hollow replied, "Sorry, but the time's not right. Know this. The mask you see on me now is as fake as the one I had way back then. Now you ask how the Kyuubi is here. Simple. When I encountered the boy, I was able to recognize the traces of Kyuubi's soul and power that had merged with the boy's. I then reformed it, but it didn't have a brain, so I copied a part of my soul here to control it. I have been slowly taking over his soul, giving me another toy to play with like my other toys before him." "Naruto," the Yame inquired, "are you alright?" The hollow replied, "He can't hear you. His mind is nearly gone, and all that is left is what is still fighting the Kyuubi here. Nothing you can say or do will bring him back. He's under my control now." "Not quite," was said by another voice as Cage reappeared in the light. "So you returned," the hollow said. "I thought I was rid of you. Boy, is this what you have become? Are you ready to let this creature consume you?" Cage asked Naruto as he approached him. Naruto remained motionless, not even acknowledging the presence of others. "Boy, why do you still stand? Why have you fought so long and hard through the darkness? What reason do you have to continue to live? Are you ready to die alone? Cage asked, placing his hand on Naruto's shoulder. With his eyes fixed on the Kyuubi in front of him, Naruto said quietly, I was born alone, I live alone, and I will die alone. Something inside his spirit snapped. Siphon remarked, but you are no longer alone, Naruto, we are here for you, as each of the women winced. Until when, Naruto? Until they betray you just like your mother there did, just like your father did, just like everyone else who ever got close to you, remember, the Hollow said, gesturing with his hand, displaying the Sandaime deceiving Naruto, followed by Teuchi and Dustin deceiving, and Iruka taunting Naruto. With anger in her heart and tears in her eyes, Kushina was furious. The Kyuubi, Cage, and Naruto stood staring at the woman as she attempted to destroy each new memory that emerged. Cage remarked, so, boy, why do you hold on when this guy tries to turn you into a dark person and shows you pain? Where do you get the strength to continue? Why do you fight so fiercely, Naruto? Why not comply with this man's demands? Give it your all. What motivates you to battle your inner demons? He put his hand on Naruto's head and said, where do you get the strength to go on? A tiny smile appeared on Naruto's face as his eyes glossed over and the world around them changed from a throne room to one of darkness. Then, in fast forward, the world turned into a blur, revealing the girls battling Naruto's memories. Kyuubi then lunged at Naruto, who looked up at him and remarked, I have been in darkness for so long that I thought that I have become darkness. After the Hollow leapt on top of Kyuubi's head and fused with him, I had no idea what light was at the time. For as long as I can, I will cling to the light that guides me, even though it may eventually turn to darkness. Cage, please give me your strength. When Cage transformed into a Zanpakuto once more, Naruto took him out of his sheath and uttered the words, shine brightly Orochimaru. Cage. For a brief moment, the whole area was bathed in light. Kyuubi lunged at Naruto with his tails, and Naruto slashed at them, severing the tips of each that attacked him. As soon as the girls saw that Naruto was standing there with his Zanpakuto against Kyuubi's paw, Kyuubi screamed, humped back, and attempted to cut Naruto with his claws, but Naruto cut them off. Then, howling with rage, Kyuubi bowed toward the ground like a cat ready to jump, and Naruto held his Zanpakuto over his head angled toward the ground in front of him. Kyuubi lunged forward and attempted to attack Naruto with his tails once more, but when Naruto tried to block them, Kyuubi moved his body so that his head was behind Naruto before Naruto could react. Kyuubi opened his mouth and bit down, devouring Naruto. The girls all let out a startled Naruto. With a roar, Kyuubi turned to face the girls and declared, the boy is now mine. Kyuubi's eyes glowed white as he coughed and blinked for a moment before a white blade sprang out from both sides of his body, spun, and split him in two just behind his front paws. A figure was observed standing in the remains as the two pieces fell to the ground. I will have my revenge, boy, Kyuubi said, hacking and coughing, as long as this power remains in you, I can control you. When Cage reappeared, Naruto was still holding his Zanpakuto. Cage said, then perhaps this power should be gone. He then shifted, and the hollow pieces of Kyuubi's body started to absorb into him. Two tails emerged from his back, and Naruto questioned, what's going on here? As he held out his hand, a copy of his Zanpakuto materialized and he said, it's too cramped in here, let's have some fun. Cage grinned and said, now that he is gone I decided it's time for your light to go out, boy. You were fun to watch for a while but I thrive in darkness and I don't need you. In a flash of light, everyone was engrossed in it. Everyone was waiting outside Naruto to see what would happen to him because he had stopped earlier and had not moved. Suddenly, a bright light flashed, and there were several groans when the light subsided. The girls were all back outside, and Yamamoto asked, what's going on? Naruto was having convulsions. When the clay on Naruto's body finished changing, it was a perfect replica of Naruto with two tails moving behind him this time. However, the clay was flowing away from his body and a second body was forming. He replied, so boy, tell me, how's it feel to see yourself in a mirror? What's going on here, Cage? Asked Naruto, who was still covered in clay and had two tails. Simple boy, Cage said, I am darkness, and darkness cannot exist within light. He stood up and held a sheathed Zanpakuto in his hand. You are light, and now I am darkness that will consume your light and spread out darkness, he said. Slowly, Naruto rose to his feet, holding his Zanpakuto in its sheath. He glared back at Cage and turned to Byakuya, saying, get out of here, this is my fight. Please boy, this is a slaughter, not a fight. Cage grinned, you've always needed my strength because you're weak. Yamamoto looked at Cage and Naruto and said, Byakuya, get out of there, this is not something that you can handle. Cage grabbed his Zanpakuto and opened it, saying, "You're right, old fool, he stand no chance in this fight, no one does." Naruto also did this, and when they both activated, he was white and Cage was black. "What's really going on here, Cage? Why are you doing this?" Naruto scowled. Cage replied, "You don't remember, do you? That fallen angel really did a trick on you and the others, to change everyone's memories of his so-called little test. Even his partner in crime did not remember it. Tell me, Naruto, do you remember the first time you met Yamamoto?" Naruto replied, "Of course I did. He welcomed me here and said that he was glad to see I came through my trials safely there in Konoha. That was the false memory that you and the others were given. Cage said he told you he had a mission for you when you first met him, and it was different from the girls who accompanied you. You were to train and then destroy all the hidden villages when you got back to the elemental countries." To everyone's surprise, Naruto yelled, "Lies, you're lying, I would recall." "Oh please, you claim to remember, but you don't remember because it was all a test for you," Cage said. "To determine whether you would possess the bravery and strength to carry out their wishes. To combat Yamamoto, it served as a test to see how strong you were to handle your own mental turmoil. After all, you stated that you could never kill the patient in order to halt the illness. People claim that you were Kyuubi, and your life should be adjusted to fit that description. It's too close to your own life. Yamamoto warned you that Kami would destroy the elemental country's humans due to their use of chakra and their treatment of Kami creatures. You were supposed to kill the people in order to prevent them from learning how to use chakra. Then, just as they did when they first brought people here, they erased their memories." Yamamoto scowled and remarked, "You're wrong." However, he wondered if that was actually possible. "No, he's merely attempting to destroy Naruto." "You're wrong. You're trying to change my mind," Naruto said, holding his hand to his head. "Am I? If so, I'm just the next in a long line of people who have done it before." Cage asked, "Your parents, Yoruichi, Kazuki, Siofon, Ayame, Tenten, Dustin, Tucci, Mizuki, Uruka, and the Sandame. That is what all of your valuable people have done." As he started a sword fight with just his Shikai like Cage, Naruto shook his head and uttered, "No, you're lying, they never done that, not them." "Really, the Sandame when he claimed to have no idea why you were hated and deceived you into being loyal to him. Mizuki by being kind to use you to obtain what he wanted, and Uruka by claiming that he respects you and sees you as him but never even cared until you saved his life," Cage said, easily defending himself. "Dustin treated you well and was kind to you, but only because he owed your parents money. He would have thrown you out if it weren't for them. Tucci is the same. If he hadn't been paid by your godfather and owed your parents, he would have allowed you to go hungry. Regarding Yurichi, she came to you and then abandoned you in your suffering. How deeply did this hurt you? As everyone told you growing up, Kazuki knew what you had been through, but he never even bothered to come see you. Your parents, of course, chose ungrateful people over their own blood relatives, and they never even wanted you. Of course, the three she-devils themselves used your emotions to manipulate your thoughts. Tenden pretends to care, but in reality, she only wants to help you after you saved her life, and she dislikes owing people. Yame, on the other hand, knows that she and her father would be homeless without you, so she entices you to keep them living comfortably while you suffer. Finally, Siofon is the worst of all." As he continued to fight, Naruto was so furious that he was unable to hear anyone yelling Dinail shouts. Siofon and Kenpachi were both restrained by 3 separate binding spells, but she was still attempting to break free so she could harm Cage. While Ayame was being held by her mother and grandmother, who were staring at Cage, Tenten was being held by her mother while she sobbed and yelled denial. Even though Kazuki, Yoruichi, Kushina, and Minato were all trying to control their anger, the energy sparks emanating from them were enough to frighten everyone. "You understand why Siofon is the worst," Cage said. "Although you are merely a stand-in for her, she becomes close to you, takes your secrets, and treats you as though she loves you. You are aware that to her, you are a substitute for your own grandmother in order for her to harm you the way she was harmed. She wanted you to grow stronger and become closer to her. You are merely a means of exacting revenge on her. Why else would she give you hope and say that beating her is the only way she would respond to you?" "That's a lie, you bastard," Siofon yelled, grabbing everyone's attention, including Naruto and the Cages. "I want him to fight me to find out the truth because I wanted him to take my place as captain and I wanted to become his second so I could always be by his side." "You were never a replacement, Naruto," Siofon stated. "I do care for him. I love him, damn it. I genuinely feel something for you similar to Ayame and Tenten. They both care about you enough to be willing to die for you, and not because they had to, as he told you, but because they wanted to, not because they had to, because of some sick, twisted reality." She was crying when she said, "You are our light, Naruto. You are important to me. You are my precious person, Naruto." There are tears there for me. Naruto thought as he watched the others there and noticed the tears falling. They genuinely care about me. As his power surged and he screamed, Bankai, Naruto closed his eyes and said, I have been in your shadow for too long. Kage, it's time, I burned brightly. Kage remarked as Naruto reappeared in his Bankai. Very well, boy, I will put out your light for good when the darkness subsided. Kage appeared with 2 Zanpakutos with blades emerging from each end, shocking everyone. It's time I showed you my true power, he said, separating the handle of his Shikai and holding the 2 pieces to the side of his body before saying, Bankai. How? Inquired Naruto. Do you really think I'd show you all my moves like that, boy? Kage asked. I am able to transform into multiple blades. I don't have a real blade because of this. The only restriction on the number is my energy level. I've transformed into something you can't comprehend because of your memories, the darkness I ingested there, and the remnant of Kyuubi I took from your soul. Now that I've transformed into darkness, I'm consuming light. Kage then assumed an odd stance and uttered, Come boy. Show me how weak you truly are. As the 2 tails swung around him and grabbed the bottom half of both staff weapons, which broke apart once more and brought them around to the back as energy blades erupted, creating 4 double-bladed weapons. After witnessing all of this, Naruto turned to face the ground and saw that his Zanpakuto was consuming his Kage shadow while Kage Zanpakuto was obstructing the light surrounding Naruto. After giving it some thought, Naruto remarked, I see, I now recognize you as Kage. I understand why you are acting in this way. What nonsense are you spouting now? Inquired Kage. Look at us, we're 2 sides of the same coin, Naruto said. I take power from you, and you take power from me. We will eventually balance each other out and become neutral. You know you have to hurry me, which is why you have been causing me annoyance. Neither of us can prevail if we are equal. He split his Zanpakuto in half, then again in half to form 4 blades. That's why you made so many Zanpakutos, so you can try to take away my power before we equal out, but since we are the same coin, I can do the same thing as you. Slash, slash, spin, slash. A deadly dance involving the clashing of black and white energy blades stunned everyone as Kage became enraged and charged at Naruto. Yamamoto drew everyone's attention as they watched by saying, Quadra Bushido. Ichigo inquired, what was that? The style they're using is ancient, and I have only seen it once by 2 brothers whose bodies were born together at the hips. Yamamoto remarked they were perfectly balanced when they fought since they never touched. It was evident how skilled they were. They moved with such grace and never cut each other that you would think their swords had to be fake. Ichigo inquired, so they never were defeated in battle then? No, Yamamoto replied, they were. The 2 brothers were stranded at a village gate in their most recent conflict, where someone had set up a trap to separate them. They set up a trap that sliced through both brothers' middles, severing their bond at the hip. After that, they were surrounded, attacked, and killed. This style's weakness is that neither had learned to defend themselves. To defeat it, you must cut off the tails, which in this case are 4 arms. Ichigo yelled, you hear that, Naruto? Cut his tails off. When Kage heard the shout, he snarled, and Naruto retorted, so, that's how to defeat you. And you as well, Kage said, though he now knew what to look for. Naruto scowled and defended himself. Naruto began to slowly back up as Kage spun all 4 blades forward, thinking, we may be the same, but I don't know this style very well. When Kage noticed that Naruto had retreated into the wall, he attempted to defend himself by using 2 of his Zanpakutos to pin both of his arms above his head while his tails held the other 2 across his neck. When Naruto attempted to wrap his tails around him, the wall blocked his path, and Kage uttered the words, any last words before you die? Yes, goodbye? Naruto let go of both of his blades that were locked against the 2 in Kage's arms and kicked his own legs out from under him with his tails as he fell. He caused his legs to split, and he grabbed both handles of the deactivated blades from his tail and activated them right below Kage. The blade shot up and through Kage's arms, legs, and tails, sending his torso to the ground. As his body transformed into shadows and then absorbed into Naruto, Kage remarked, very good boy, but remember, you can't kill me for I am your shadow and will always be with you, waiting. Naruto closed his eyes as the clay surrounding his body started to crack and eventually fell away as the last of the shadow was absorbed. As everyone approached Naruto slowly after Orihime dropped the shield, Hiyori remarked, well, it looks like he passed his test. Now we will have to teach him how to use it, Ichigo sighed. Yamamoto looked at the boy and remarked, never a dull moment with you, Naruto, is there? What should we do now, sir? Inquired Byakuya. Yamamoto continued, for now nothing. The danger is past, but I do want him to spend time with his family, and I want you captains here to also spend time with him as a person. That could have turned either way back there. The boy's been betrayed by those fools in Konoha and he is expecting for us to betray him as well. I want to ensure that the darkness will never be able to get this much control out of him again. Now I have to head home to my wife. Nothing that happened here today will be spoken to anyone that was not here. I may no longer be Captain Commander, but until the boy is able to fully take over I will still hold some power. Sir, wait, Siphon said, drawing everyone's attention. Yamamoto inquired, what is it, Siphon? Siphon responded, Sir, it's about the new hollow, sir. It had copied a part of its soul into Naruto because he was able to control the traces of Kyuubi's soul that had merged with Naruto. The thing is, sir, he knew me. He spoke about it being over 400 years since we last met. He said that the mask he had now was just as fake as the face he had then. He said he was wanting to turn Naruto into his newest toy just like the others he already has. He also mentioned seeing the look on my face when I saw Aizen was alive and I tried to get there to help stop him. Yamamoto looked at him and said, this is disturbing, captains. I want you each to get yourself ready for combat. I have a feeling that this is just the beginning. I think that this new hollow is going to start to show itself more and we need to take care of him. Every one of them nodded and said, everyone who was wounded get treated, and I want you all to tell me if you see anything that could be considered odd about Naruto from now on. I am hoping that this problem is taken care of, but we can't be sure until we have more info. The fact that he was so susceptible to a mental attack like this worries me. Another could happen. When he started leaving. As the captains began to depart, Kenpachi remarked, but I never got to fight. Ichigo replied, relax Kenpachi, once I am sure Naruto has learned to control his wizard powers I will have him fight you. Kenpachi nods and turns to face Naruto, who is being watched anxiously by Siphon, Ayame, Tenten, Kushina, Orihime, and Yoruichi as they attempt to treat his wounds. Woman, can't they see that his wounds are badges of honor? He thought as he walked away, shaking his head. According to Kushina, I think we should take him home. According to Minato, I agree, I believe it's time we truly became a family for him. According to Ichigo, I couldn't have said it better myself. Kushina remarked, relax, you all three are considered family, so you invited along with your family, as Tenten, Ayame, and Siphon appeared somewhat alarmed. So Siphon, you do realize you just blew any hard-ass reputation you had in front of the other captains. Was it worth it? Yoruichi asked as the girls grinned. With a smile, Siphon replied, yes. When Orihime, who was tending to Naruto, looked between his legs and saw two blonde hairs, she blinked and cocked her head to the side, asking, everyone, does Naruto have tails? As he brushed Naruto's hair aside and revealed his ears had changed to fox ears, Kazuki said, it's not just tails, look. Kushina blinked. After 5 seconds, as everyone's brains began to work, there was a shout that reverberated throughout Soul Society. Kawii. With a groan, Naruto opened his eyes slowly and discovered that he was in a white room. When Naruto noticed Kage seated there, he exclaimed, what the hell? Kage replied, relax boy, it seems you were right, it seems that it was only a matter of time before we neutralized each other. I have become the yang to your yin. I have a little light in my darkness and you have a little darkness in your light. Says Naruto. I don't understand. Kage, looking off to the side as if he were lost in his own recollections, Kage remarked, it's ironic that you started to call me just Kage instead of my full name, because now that I have absorbed the remnants of Kyuubi power I have become someone different. Naruto responded, what do you mean, are we going to have to fight again? Kage chuckled and said, no boy, that is no longer possible. Is it? After all, if I die you die, and if you die I die. We are balanced. I am a collection of the darkness inside of you like the light side of a yin-yang. However, if you reverse it, where I am the dark side of the yin-yang, there is light inside of me. He is who I should be, who I will be at time. At those times I am a shadow of you, a copy. You have my original power and my old name, but the light inside of me has another name that you also know, but you don't understand how to use my or his power. In time you will, but for now you must return to your precious people. But know this, we no longer have our own power, we are one. I have half your power and you have half of mine. We can no longer draw power from each other. I will draw my power from you and you will draw your power from the shadows around you. My powers have changes slightly and you must relearn them. Some of it will make you more powerful, but at other times it will make you weaker. You must learn it now. Go and think on what I have said. After blinking, Naruto saw that he was staring at a ceiling. He turned to see that he was in a bed, but he was unable to sit up. He looked down and saw that he was strapped to the bed, and he exclaimed, what the hell is going on here? As he attempted to break free. His voice let others know he was awake. And when the door opened and Kushina and Orihime entered, Kushina exclaimed, thank God you're awake. What's going on, Mom, and why am I tied down? Asked Naruto. Orihime replied, Relax Naruto, we just tied you down so you did not move before you were healed. Your recent adventure broke 4 ribs and you were wounded really heavy. Once we make sure you're healed enough we will release you, okay? Gazing at Orihime, Naruto scowled and uttered, right, who are you? Naruto, this is Orihime, my mother, Kushina said as Orihime sighed. With wide eyes, Naruto exclaimed, Grandma. Following Orihime's nod, Naruto grinned and remarked, nice to finally meet you, grandmother. I reject. Orihime grinned and placed a hand on each side of her head. 2 tiny objects flew from her head, and Naruto screamed, oh god, pixies from hell. As a gold glow enveloped Naruto and he felt his wounds begin to heal even more, one of the pixies exclaimed, we're not from hell. After 4 minutes or so, the pixies flew back to Orihime and vanished, and she remarked, there you go, that should do it. After Kushina severed Naruto's bindings, he sat up gradually and uttered the words, I'm stiff. No wonder, it's been 2 weeks, Kushina remarked. With wide eyes, Naruto uttered the words, 2 weeks. Kushina nods as she says, you caused a lot of people to worry about you. Mom and me finally had to sedate Siphon, Tenten, and Ayame to get them to leave your bedside. After a few minutes, Naruto quietly remarked, that was all real, wasn't it? All of you crying for me. He had been looking down for a while. He tensed for a second when Kushina approached and gave him a hug, and she replied, yes, son. With a genuine smile, Naruto wrapped his arms around Kushina and started crying as he finally felt the weight of his previous lift on his shoulder. He repeatedly whispered, Mom. That is quite a story you have told me, Jiraiya. I find it very hard to believe, the 3rd Hokage of Konoha remarked. Jiraiya replied, it's not really that hard to believe if you think about it, sir. You remember the legend Naidame told you about when you were training us. But that just it, Jiraiya, it was a legend. There has never been any proof of it, the 3rd scowled. As he listened, Kakashi exclaimed, what legend, sir? The Naidame told me about a legend that he and his brother discovered, the 3rd person stated. A great city was supposedly destroyed and rebuilt multiple times by Kami, according to the legend. According to the legend, Kami would rebuild the once fabled city after erasing all traces of it in the world's memories. Before they discovered an old book, neither the Naidame nor the Shodem truly believed the legend when they first heard it. The book was written as a travel guide. It mentioned restaurants, leisure areas, lodging options, historical sites, and conveniences for travelers. To be honest, they would never have believed the story of the once great city if it weren't for that book. When I was in training, the Naidame told me about the book and the city it explained, and he wanted me to pass it on so the knowledge of the once great city was never truly lost. It was that book that gave them the idea to build Konoha, but the book itself had long since been destroyed during their nomadic days. Kakashi responded, so you think it's possible that this great city was the one Naruto and the others were talking about, Soul Society? No, or at least not directly, Jiraiya replied. I believe that at least some of that legend may be true, even though I don't fully understand it. If so, it's possible that what I heard is accurate as well. At the moment, we simply don't have enough information to confirm or refute it. I'm unsure of what to believe. The 3rd said, I don't want this information to spread until we have more information. When I have the chance, I would like to see Naruto, but I don't want to risk his return by attempting to coerce him. A knock on the door was heard at that moment, and the 3rd person said, come in. When Team 8 and Team 10 entered through the open door, the 3rd person noticed that they had successfully captured Tora because they had the mission scroll. Well done, he said. You must be here on another mission, I suppose. There are no more D ranks, Kiba yelled when the Hokage noticed blood dripping from his hand onto the floor. He said, I see one more time, going after that cat and Akamaru and I will kill it. Kurenai, do you think your team is prepared for a more important mission? In response, Kurenai said, a low C. Yes sir, Ino replied. Wait, you mean if you scream your head off like Kiba here you can get a higher mission? No, but I was considering a joint mission, the 3rd said with a frown. Team 8 and Team 10 are assigned to protect a client while he completes his bridge and guard him on his way home. Would you please fetch the man from the waiting area for me, Kakashi? With a nod, Kakashi approaches the waiting area, opens it, and says, you can come in now, sir. Oh, ho, I got a lot of protection for my pay, a beautiful woman, 3 strong ninja, and 6 wimpy-looking kids, exclaimed a drunk man wearing a straw hat as he entered. I am sorry Tazuna, but you see, only the 2 genin teams will be going with you. Jiraiya and Kakashi were just finishing a report on a recent mission, the 3rd said, and everyone started to perspire as Kiba snarled. As he drank his sake, Tazuna said, well, I thought I would be getting more for what I paid. He was sweating and noticed that all of the genin were staring at him. Holding his hand over Ino's mouth, Asuma sighed and remarked, Okay teams, we will leave in 2 hours, that plenty of time for your team Kurenai. As Kurenai put it, yes which gate? Where is the mission located, Tazuna? Asuma inquired. Wave, Tazuna said. Asuma nodded and continued. South we will travel towards Suna for the first day and then cut down a short path I learned when I was with the Fire Guardians. It will cut about 2 days off our travel. Sound good? Each member nodded before departing, and Kurenai said, yeah, sounds good. You heard him Team 8, South Gate 2 hours. Move out and prepare for at least a month-long mission. Use scrolls 1 showed you how to create, Ino asked. What kind of scrolls? After turning to face Asuma. Asuma replied, don't worry about it, go get ready for a month away from the village. Jiraiya waited for the client to depart before saying, you do know that this mission is going to be higher than AC rank, right? As the teams departed. After glancing at him, Kakashi and the third person asked, what do you mean? According to Jiraiya's spy network, a businessman named Gotei is currently choking the Wave Nation, the shipping company. His hands are everywhere on the underground market. The third said, scowling, and a bridge connecting Wave to the mainland would be a risk to his control. Jiraiya added, my spies also told me that Naruto and the others were spotted rescuing a boat from a dock close to Wave. It might be an opportunity to try to obtain some information. Kakashi, I want you to find your student and Guy and have both of your teams go with the Asuma team, the third said with a frown. I want you to follow them, Jiraiya, and if they require assistance, support them. You should also check with your local spies. There aren't many places where a boat that was launched from that region could have gone without refueling. Try to obtain a back trail. We can determine where Naruto and the others have been if we are unable to determine their current location or their destination. That's your main task, Jiraiya. Instead of working with Lone Ranger nonsense, Kakashi, you should collaborate with the other teams so that Sasuke can work with teams. You can commission all the teams to help you if you think they would work with 4 individuals whose family specializes in tracking after the mission is completed and Jiraiya finds a reliable lead. Both men nod and hurry off. As he studied the documents, the third sighed and remarked, this is going to be a headache. Naruto sighed as he lay back on his bed in Soul Society, where his mother and grandmother had just left but had instructed him to stay in bed for another day to ensure he recovered completely. A voice said, your family really loves you, you know that, as he closed his eyes. The figure sitting in a chair in the corner with his arms behind his head caught Naruto's attention as he opened his eyes and scanned the room. What are you doing here, Jericho? Asked Naruto. Well, actually a few things, Jericho said to start. Let me tell you why you have ears and tails now. After twitching and placing his hand on his head to feel his ears, Naruto frowned and said, how did I miss those? As he looked down and noticed 2 tails waving back and forth. You're still emotionally damaged by what happened and haven't fully recovered yet, Jericho said. You will adjust to them, so don't worry. So, what does Kami Messenger want to tell me about my tails and ears that is so important that you needed to visit? Naruto nodded, then shook his head and said, sorry, don't know where that came from. That's your body trying to get used to itself, Jericho said. You're upset, which is why you have a snippy attitude. Let me explain those new changes to you, but it will go away. Kyuubi left you their presents. You weren't supposed to receive them until you were prepared for them, but that Hollow's little mind game confused your body and mind and made you and your Zanpakuto change. Blinking, Naruto uttered, gift from the fox, why? Kyuubi felt bad about the hurt his action caused you, so when he was freed, he gave you a small part of his soul to help you later, Jericho said. You would have gotten them when you were about 18 if you hadn't come here. One of the reasons I'm here now is because of what transpired with it. Let me wrap up the changes for you, but I will go into more detail in a few minutes. Your Zanpakuto has probably informed you that he has changed. You will still be able to absorb shadows as usual, but you will no longer have the new power you learned at the end that might allow you to create an infinite number of blades. Only 2 double blades or 4 single blades can be made at this time. Not anymore because of the mental strain that the Hollow has placed on you. You are now also a Vizard. In reality, your Vizard form will be activated similarly to when your Shinkai is released, but it will call your Zanpakuto's second name instead. 2 of your blades will stay white while you perform single blades, while the other 2 will turn black. 1 employee will be white and 1 will be black in the staff form. Your enemy's spiritual energy is sucked by the black blades, but it does not reach you. Your Zanpakuto will store it for use in a long-range attack. Since it's a surprise, I won't tell you what additional effects your Vizard form will have. The rest of you is essentially unchanged. I can tell you have a few questions you would like answered now that your recent changes have been addressed. I'll respond to them since I already know them. Yes, your Zanpakuto was telling the truth. You were put under pressure to confront and fight Yamamoto as part of a test administered to you. Since you passed the test and Yamamoto, like you and everyone else except your Zanpakuto, has no recollection of it, I won't tell you what it was. You don't have to worry about things that were lies in the first place, so I altered the memories. Tell someone later that it was just your inner hollow trying to shatter you, which is partially true, if they ask. No, those 3 women's feelings for you were not tested. They do care about you, they all have different reasons for wanting to be with you. However, Cammy did do you one favor. Cammy put you in a situation where the girls had to decide whether or not they wanted to face your memories, and they did, because she knew that you were afraid that no one could love you when you were broken on the inside. Yes, exactly. Cammy was the one who first conceived of the part where you turned into a wizard and put it into action after deciding that the actions of this new hollow had to end. Why? Inquired Naruto. To eliminate a vulnerability that could be later exploited, Jericho stated. You are being destroyed on the inside by your fear of approaching people. You would eventually have to lose it and destroy everyone around you as well as yourself. Cammy gave the girls an opportunity to learn about you and assist you in order to prevent this. You no longer need to hide and become weak by bearing the burden alone because they know you and still love you, if not more than they do. All I can say at this point is that you will need to decide how to proceed with your personal life normally. Cammy doesn't get that involved in someone else's life, but you are special along with a few other things I won't reveal that have piqued Cammy's interest. You received the blessing of one of Cammy's pets and maintained your purity in the face of darkness. Jericho remarked, unfortunately, this is not actually a social call, and Naruto sighed upon hearing this. Cammy has instructed me to deliver this to you. It will describe what you need to do. Show this to Yamamoto if you require assistance, and he will confirm it for everyone before he vanished. He gave Naruto a scroll and said, good day. As Naruto opened the scroll and started reading, he let out a moan and let out a what. Those who were still inside the Shiwan compound came running when the shout caught their attention. Kushina, Orihime, Minato, and Yoruichi all ran as the door opened. While looking around the room, Yoruichi asked, what's wrong? She noticed Naruto reading a scroll with a startled expression on his face before he closed his eyes and said, I need a message sent now. Kushina replied, Naruto, you're still injured and weakened from your recent ordeal, you don't need to. I need a message sent to all the captains and Yamamoto to meet me in our meeting room right now, Naruto said, opening his eyes. I don't have time for injuries right now, at this moment. I am not speaking as your son as the Gotei 13's captain commander. I'm speaking as he got out of bed and started to dress, he said. Now, could someone please send the messages to those people and hurry? Naruto, what's wrong? Minato asked. Report to your unit, Dad, Naruto said, scowling as he put on his pants and saw that his tails began exactly where his pants ended after putting on his captain jacket without a shirt. He said, your captain will notify you shortly. Now, please send out the message for me. He said. He stepped away, saying, I don't have time to explain, our lives will be lost. As he entered the Gotei 13 meeting room, he started to consider his next words before coughing up blood and thinking, shit, stepping re-injured my ribs. Cage advised, try shapeshifting. If your body is aligned different, it might make it easier to breath and move since your breathing is getting erratic from the pain. After changing into a cat and taking a single breath, Naruto scowled and reflected, thanks, Cage, it helped, but I can't move much because I can still feel my injuries. I think we better do as he said. Yoruichi scowled as they returned to the Shiwan compound. Something must have happened, and it had to do with that scroll he was reading, because he had never used his office on any of us in that way before, since there had never been a scroll in this room before. It was delivered by someone who entered after we had left. Kushina nodded and hurried off in search of a hell butterfly, saying, I will send out the message. After about 20 minutes, when all of the captains showed up and saw Naruto still in his cat form, Yamamoto came over and exclaimed, what's so important you called me here, Naruto? After coughing up blood once more and briefly changing back to human form, Naruto threw a scroll to Yamamoto before saying, our mutual friend gave that to me. He also coughed like a cat. What's wrong with you, Shiwan-sama? Inquired Captain Unohana. I am still injured from recent events, and when I came here I re-injured myself, Naruto said, coughing once more. Allow me to check you over, Unohana said. Not yet, said Naruto. First, Yamamoto, what do you think we ought to do? I acknowledge that I am not yet familiar with all the steps involved in handling this, so I ask for your advice and assistance? Very well, I must agree that you would never have been prepared for this to happen in such a short time, Yamamoto said with a frown. Since Cammy has given orders and it looks like we are going to go to war again, I will give standing orders to get everything going. Unohana, please go ahead and start treating him while you listen in. Unohana said, yes, Yamamoto-sama, as she approached Naruto and uttered the words, please return to human form. The captain's eyes widened instantly. When Naruto did, she started to examine him and scowled even more. Yamamoto declared, "Captains, all missions to the human world are hereby cancelled, and all agents should be recalled right away from the field in the human world. Kami will shut off the human world from Soul Society in Hueco Mundo in precisely 4 days, so our presence there won't be required for the time being. Kami gives us instructions to concentrate on and promptly address the issues in the elemental countries. In addition, Kami wants us to find the other 8 Biju next to the Kyuubi and, if they are imprisoned, release them from their human host. Mortals using her, his pets as weapons and for their own pet games is something Kami dislikes. The elemental countries will now face a serious threat from hollows since the human world has been shut down. Previously, they had a whole buffet to eat, but now that it is gone, it won't take long for them to find out that humans are present. Kami wants us to handle this new hollow as well. According to Kami, it poses a danger to the universe's equilibrium since Kami believes that we have been neglecting to clean up the mess that led to the emergence of the elemental countries. We will no longer be invisible to those with low spirit energy thanks to Kami hollows, and I will look exactly like we do now when we get there, and hollows will be just as real as summons. It's Kami's method of compulsion. Do you have any questions? Sir, what about containment? Siafon asked. It is no longer possible to contain, said Naruto with a frown. He coughed as Unohana treated him. We have been given permission to eliminate any and all threats because humans will be able to see us in hollows and they may attack us. Naruto is right. Yamamoto stated, I am issuing these orders because of the way they are written. He was interrupted by Naruto, who said, No, Yamamoto. I'll give the orders because I have blood on my hands. You have been and continue to be a highly esteemed global leader. With the Geonist we are going to unleash, I won't allow you to tarnish your reputation. I will issue that order. The souls that we killed will be in a commotion when this mess is over here. It might spark a civil war. One will be the one to bear the consequences later. In order to prevent war and make sure that doesn't happen, he sat up and looked directly into Yamamoto's eyes, saying, after this mess is cleaned up, the people here will need someone they can trust to see them through. You do realize what you saying, Naruto, Yamamoto said, glaring at Naruto. I am aware of it, Naruto stated. For those of you who haven't realized yet, Kami has granted the authority to kill every person in the elemental nation if necessary in order to save not only all of the souls there but also the Soul Society. The complete annihilation of the human race will occur if these messes are not promptly cleaned up by Kami standards. Kami specifically stated that once he determines where we went wrong, he can begin again. Since I dislike killing patients to eradicate diseases, these are my official directives. If you witness fighting that will result in the loss of human life, you are to decide which lives will not lead to more deaths. If you find that one will lead to more deaths, you are to eliminate that person and promptly send their souls to either heaven or hell. Whichever is appropriate. Just because you can kill everyone doesn't mean I want you to do it while we work to address Kami's current major issues. If you can put an end to the fight without any fatalities, please do so. Do you have any questions? Yes, what are our actual plans? Ichigo asked. We will divide up as follows. Yamamoto stated Squad 12 has been ordered to temporarily halt all research endeavors unless they are able to resolve the chakra or the new hollow issue. Squad 2 is supposed to start looking for the Bijus and, if sealed, freeing them. Squads 3, 5, and 11 are supposed to start patrolling the elemental nations in search of hollows, souls to send, and to carry out Naruto's recent directives to put an end to disputes as soon as possible. Squad 4 is supposed to start getting ready for the injured when all the new souls begin to arrive. Squads 1, 6, and 10 will be working to prevent Soul Society from going to war in the event that someone needs backup. Squads 7 and 8 will be ready, and Squad 13 will serve as a liaison between the other squads to keep everyone informed of the situation. Yamamoto, I have a few requests, Naruto said. As Yamamoto put it, go ahead, Naruto. To find a potential lead I found about the new hollow, I would like to moderately assemble a small team myself. Naruto stated, I learned that it had a lineage from the elemental nations known as the Sharingan, and I may be able to find out more about it from someone I know. Very well, said Yamamoto. Who would be on your team? Naruto replied, I will take Ayame, Tenten and Yoruichi with me. Yamamoto replied, I thought you would have taken Siafon with you instead of Yoruichi. Naruto replied, the thought had crossed my mind, but in this time of need I thought that it would be better if she was with her team. Well, if I may ask a question, Siafon said, will your team be returning to see the people you previously met? With a frown, Naruto uttered, yes, why? Siafon remarked, well, It might be simpler if I went because I told them that I was your bodyguard in case you forgot to prevent more questions about you from coming up. You might attract more unwanted attention and put them in a more vulnerable position, making it more difficult to obtain information, if you returned right now without me. Yamamoto replied, you do raise a valid point, Siofon, but so did Naruto. If I put you with Naruto, who would take over as captain in your place while you're gone? Ichigo responded, actually, sir, I think I have a solution to that, as Siofon scowled. A former captain might not be able to protect the rest of the team, and Naruto still has to fight Kenpachi after he recovers. Because of this new Hollow, who we already know is dangerous, it would be wise to have 3 heavy hitters on the Naruto team. This is because Naruto is still injured, and his abilities are currently uncertain and untested due to his recent advancement, if you will, and neither Tenten nor Yame have actually engaged in combat outside of training in Yoruichi. Siofon's participation, in my opinion, would at least ensure that neither girl suffered any harm while also giving Naruto more firepower in case his skills were negatively impacted. Having previously trained with both Siofon and Yoruichi, we do have another captain-level individual who is somewhat familiar with the elemental nations and is aware of how the second squad functions. This person could take over in a moderate manner. She is as skilled at healing as she is at killing, which is the only reason she isn't already a captain. I see, you are referring to Kushina, are you not? Yamamoto asked. Yes, sir, said Ichigo. Her abilities are undeniable, and with the assistance of the second squad's vice-captain, she can ensure that everyone is doing what is required at the moment while giving Naruto time to compile this information. We can maintain order until he returns, which shouldn't take more than a month. Even though he might be your replacement, he is still relatively inexperienced with all of this. Furthermore, if you separated her from her beloved Naruto-kun, Siofon would probably become distracted. This caused Siofon to glare and a few captains to snicker. If I may, sir, I have healed Naruto-san as best I can right now, but he needs to rest for at least 2 days, preferably in the 4th unit, to ensure that his wounds don't burst open again, Hana said. However, he will still be in the air for at least a week after that, so maybe an additional guard would not hurt given how important that information could be. It would also allow the 12th squad more time to conduct research on the Uchiha clan, but for some reason, all of the information about them has vanished from our archives, such as the fact that there has never been Uchiha in Soul Society. I also concur that Kushina could reasonably take Siofon's place as captain. She is a skilled healer who is only outperformed by Orihime, my second, and myself in her healing abilities. However, in terms of fighting prowess, she could compete with Kenpachi. This is the only reason she has not progressed further than she has. Alright, Yamamoto said, I'll take over as captain command of Squad 1 while you're away, but you won't be leaving for 3 days so you can rest and recuperate. Siofon, you'll use those 3 days to help Kushina adjust to the second squad. I want you to try to be discreet until Hollow starts to appear. Notify your squads and get ready for war if no one else has anything else. After the captains nodded and started to depart, Naruto stood up and flinched, and Hana remarked, calm down and don't use Shunpo or you will hurt yourself again. We can treat you more quickly if you just walk back to the 4th with me. Yamamoto said, I would like to speak with him privately for a moment before you take him, as Naruto nodded. Yamamoto said, you're doing fine, Naruto, but you don't have to take the burden all to yourself. After Hana nods and leaves. I was foolish to give you all of this authority at once because you aren't ready for it yet. I'll pull you aside after this mess is over and help you prepare for such circumstances. I understand that all of this must be overwhelming, but keep in mind that you are merely one component of a bigger picture. I will, sir, but I'm not sure what to do, Naruto said, nodding. I don't know the rules, but I feel like I'm being given control over everything. That is why I will help you once things settle down, Yamamoto said, nodding. Rest for the time being and stop worrying about Soul Society until this mess is cleaned up. I will take care of it for you on your end. You worry about things. Yamamoto opened the door and said, take him now. Naruto winced and held his sides, saying, all right. I have a lot of work to do. After Hana nods and removes Naruto, Yamamoto sits down, takes out a cup of tea, and muses, at least this way I can avoid my wife. She didn't like all of my Icha Paradise books that I had taken from the elemental countries, and when she gets upset, her voice sounds like a banshee scream, but I forgot that. Even though he was healed after the 2nd day, it had been 4 days since Orihime, Kushina, and Hana decided that he was still unfit to leave bed until today. Naruto sighed as he stretched and thought, Hana didn't have to put me to sleep all those days. He glanced at his 2 tails that emerged just over the edge of his black pants as he put them on. When he put on his captain's jacket and white shirt, someone said, I still don't know how you get out of wearing the traditional Shinigami outfit. Glancing up, Naruto said, hello, Captain Ichigo. Can't you call me grandfather? Ichigo said as he entered and shut the door. Naruto replied, I will when not on duty, but I am getting ready to leave for the elemental countries. Putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder, Ichigo stated, we need to talk first. Remove the arm, Naruto said, his voice bitter, and scowled. Ichigo said, sorry, just wanted to make sure you didn't try to run before we could talk, after removing the expression from Naruto's face. Naruto grumbled, sorry about that, my emotions are still a little screwed up and I don't like people touching me that much because I am not used to it. Really, I used to be able to fake it, but now my emotional mask is completely gone and Ichigo smiles and responds, I understand completely. I am basically the same way. When I was alive, people made fun of me because of my hair and picked on me, and words hurt usually more than the punches did, but I eventually got to where I didn't like anyone to touch me until the shit hit the fan and became a Shinigami. Seeing his grandfather in a different light, Naruto nods slowly and asks, so what is it you wanted to speak to me about? Ichigo was leaning against the wall when he said, if you have to use your wizard form, there are some things you need to know. 1. Always keep your emotions in check and your resolve set. If your resolve gets weak, then your wizard can make another bid for control even if it says it can't. 2. Don't use it unless you have to for a long time. I only could use it for 11 seconds and then I was weakened to the point a civilian could kill me. 3. If you do use it, take out the enemy quick. Okay, I will remember that. Anything else? Naruto said, nodding. Ichigo let out a sigh. Yeah, keep an eye on the girls. I don't care how strong they are, who they are, or where they come from. There are times a woman will see something or hear something that will just weaken them either emotionally or physically. If that happens, you are going to have to be there for them to pull them back together. I guess I can do that, Naruto scowled, adding, I don't really understand. Ichigo laughs and replies, welcome to the male world. We never understand women, and when we think we do, they change the rules on us. End of story. Don't even try to understand them. So it's not just me, huh? Naruto said, glancing at Ichigo. No, it's every male, Ichigo remarked. Good, well, is that all you needed to speak to me about? Naruto asked, nodding. Ichigo glanced around and said, one more thing, if you need us, we're there for you. Naruto, all the captains have had an eye on you at one time or another since you were born, and we all want to crack at Konoha. If it gets too bad, don't hesitate to ask. Zangetsu would love to show them something to be afraid of, and Kenpachi would love any fight. Naruto replied, perhaps someday. I got other things to worry about than Konoha at this moment. I got to go play with an overbloated ego from a bastard. Sounds like Rukia, brother, Ichigo murmured softly. Naruto questioned, what? Nothing, Ichigo said, gesturing with his hands, you better hurry, the girls are all waiting for you. Before flash stepping away, Naruto nods, picks up his Zanpakuto, and gives Ichigo one last glance. After he left, a voice said, you know, you could have let me fight him first. Ichigo replied, all in due time, Kenpachi, all in good time as your squad's ready. Kenpachi replied, yeah, we're leaving out and heading in from the north in 2 hours, what about you? Ichigo continued, we're coming in from the west in 4 hours and the third squad is going to come in from the south 2 hours later. We're using the triad runs in groups of 3 every 10 miles, it's our best bet. About time we got off our asses and done something, Kenpachi nods, adding, I have been getting bored. That's not what I hear. You know Hana saying I hear she's been keeping you busy, Ichigo smirked. Ichigo flash stepped away as Kenpachi swung his sword where he had been, but it struck nothing but air. When Naruto saw all 4 of the girls standing in front of the Shiwan estate, he said, so are you all ready? Tenten replied, yeah, we're hooking up with our dads. They're shadowing Sasuke as we speak in Wave Country. I am glad, though we don't have to use those Gigai bodies again. I don't like them. All right, let's go out then, and let's try not to draw attention to ourselves too much, Naruto grinned. After transforming into a cat, Yoruichi questioned, so what are you going to do about your tails? Naruto looked at him and said, I will change into a cat when we get close, and let's say I am close by but don't want to be there myself to stop fights. They headed to the gates after Siafon lifted Yoruichi and placed her on her shoulder. They passed the checkout station without saying anything, and as they passed through the tunnel between worlds, Naruto questioned, is everything okay? Ayame replied, Tenten and I are a little nervous. We haven't done any actual fighting against any hollows and now we're in a war. Naruto was saying, just stick close to Yoruichi and Siafon. Between the 3 of us you both will be fine, but if you have to fight one, break the mask completely. It's the only way, and remember, it's them or us. As they emerged from the tunnel and stood in the air, Siafon said, well, here we are. Each girl nodded. Tenten closed her eyes, and as spirit ribbons emerged, she began to guide them west, saying, this way I can tell Dad's Ritsu. Looks like you and Ayame have been training hard. I'm proud of you both, Naruto said, raising an eyebrow. Following a small smile from each girl, Yoruichi remarked, save it for later lover boy, we need to meet up with the others. You're no fun, Grandma, Naruto remarked with a frown. No, I am not the kind of fun you are interested in is all, Yoruichi smirked. As they were about to step on a tree while airwalking, Naruto missed a foot and almost fell to the ground below, but he managed to catch himself. All of the girls giggled as he glared at the cat and stuck out his tongue. After the others followed him to the ground, Naruto exclaimed, so this is Wave huh? Tenten replied, I believe so, I haven't ever been here before. I don't think any of us have. Let's go. I can tell Dad is close by, Ayame said after observing the other's expression. How are we going to do this? Siafon inquired. They turned to see Dustin and Tucci standing there when a voice said, do what? When Naruto waved, both girls ran to embrace their fathers. Naruto grinned softly and Siafon remarked, you still feel cheated huh? Siafon placed her arms on Naruto's shoulder and remarked, after this is over, you are spending a month with your parents getting to know them. Naruto nodded and scowled. I don't care if I have to battle Yamamoto to get him to agree, you deserve it. That's okay, Naruto snorted. That is if I don't get executed to stop the revolt I fear is going to hit Soul Society over this, he said in a deadpan tone, adding, I will just make it an official order. So where is the Teme? Naruto questioned loudly enough for everyone to hear. Dustin stated, he's a half an hour away in a house of the client along with all of the other rookie genins and Team Guy. Naruto looked at him and said, shit, anyway we might be able to talk to him privately away from the others without confronting the others. Doubtful, Dustin remarked, the sensei are all working their teams into the ground after being attacked simultaneously on the way here by Zabuza and the Demon Brothers. They were stopped by the sensei. However, the assistance of a fourth individual wearing a Hunter Nin mask allowed all three to escape. With a sigh, Naruto turned to face Tenten and Ayame and said, all right, let's go take the lead. When Yoruichi fled into the woods after Siafon put her down, Naruto looked in her direction and said, she's going to go see what info she can gather on this Zabuza guy in the area so we don't get involved in the local fighting. As Ayame and Tenten spoke to their fathers, who led the way, Naruto nodded and said nothing. Siafon stood next to Naruto, who had changed into a cat and picked him up as she moved toward the rear of the group. They soon emerged from the forest and came upon a house with a little wooden bridge. Dustin paused and greeted the house with the words, ahoy in the house. After giving him a quick glance, Naruto asked himself, why didn't he just knock? Naruto reasoned that it must be Shino because a swarm of bugs entered the house from the nearby trees. Other than the fact that he used bugs, I never really knew anything about his abilities. Naruto saw the door open and Kakashi emerge. He squinted at the group and questioned, what do you want and why are you here? Tenten approached and said, we would like to ask some questions. Would it be possible for us to come and speak? We have no intention of hurting you or your client. We'll depart once we have answers. Glancing around the clearing, Kakashi questioned, where is Naruto or the guy who claims to be him? He's waiting nearby. Siafon said we had a rough start the last time, so he simply doesn't want to start a fight. Ah, my former student has chosen to grace us with her youth, Guy said as she emerged. The honor of your visit is due to what? Tenten replied, like we said, we just came to ask a few questions about something that someone here can answer for us. Kakashi inquired, and how do you know who is here? Because Tucci and I have been following your group for the past 3 days, Kakashi, when we learned that they wanted to speak with you and Sasuke regarding the Sharingan. Dustin stated recall that in addition to Itachi, Sasuke, and you, they mentioned another Sharingan user. The kids here have been having problems with him, so they thought that if they came and spoke to you too, it might help them stay out of trouble with the other Sharingan user. Guy looked at Kakashi, who scowled, and said, you can come in. Tucci replied, thank you Guy, we appreciate it and we will leave as soon as we can get answers so not to interrupt your mission. Kakashi replied, if we help you then you must inform us about this other Uchiha. Dustin stated, we only know he possesses the Sharingan. We don't know if he is a Uchiha. Kakashi, he may resemble you and have a transplanted eye that he received prior to the Uchiha massacre. He entered first, followed by Siafon. As she walked in, she noticed a number of teenagers sitting or standing there, along with a man smoking and a woman with red eyes. She also noticed another man drinking and a woman who appeared somewhat alarmed. When Akamaru began to bark, Kiba remarked, get that cat out of here if you don't want to see him get hurt. Akamaru don't like cats. We won't be long, so I will hold him, Siafon said while stroking the cat. Before leaping up towards Siafon, Akamaru, wearing a Kiba jacket, leapt out of it and landed on the coffee table. When the cat leapt out of her arms and flipped in a circle in midair, its tail changed from 1 to 2 tails, wrapped around Akamaru, and threw him back at Kiba. Siafon began to move to stop the dog. Asuma exclaimed, "Holy shit, it's a Nekomata," as everyone gasped. To everyone's surprise, the cat scowled and said, "Can't you keep Akamaru on a leash, Kiba?" in Naruto's voice. Pale-faced, Kiba exclaimed, "Nah, Naruto, is that you?" The cat scowled and leapt into the air. When he flipped, he transformed back into a human, and everyone took in his new appearance, with the exception of Kakashi and Sasuke. Naruto responded, "Yeah. It's me, I can transform into a cat thanks to my ancestry." "Do you have the ears and tails of those cats?" Ino asked in a fangirlish tone. "She says, they look cute." As everyone turned to look at another cat, a female voice said, "Yes they are, it's what happens when someone of our bloodline completely masters it." Turning, Naruto remarked, "You're back quick. Pardon me for asking, but who are all of you exactly and why are you here?" Kurenai said, clearing her throat, "I'm not trying to be impolite, but you interrupted our mission and..." Everyone turned to stare at the cat when it said, "Your mission is to protect the bridge builder Tazuna from Gotei, correct?" Kakashi said, "Yes, but why are you asking?" with narrowed eyes. "When Tucci and Dustin told us about your encounter with Zabuza and the Demon Brothers, I went to gather information on them so our group could avoid conflict while we were here because we have our own trouble to deal with," the cat said, leaping up on the table as soon as he entered the room. Naruto and his group all turned to stare at Kakashi when he said, "With Soul Society." Naruto inquired, "And how do you know about that, Kakashi?" Ignoring their looks, Kakashi took out his book and remarked, "I have my ways." The feline remarked, "In any case, I learned that Zabuza and his team intend to launch an assault at the bridge tomorrow since they are all rested and not seriously hurt. In addition, I learned that Gotei intends to abduct Tazuna's daughter as insurance in the event that Zabuza fails on the opposite side of the island, as their compound, all the other buildings over there have been destroyed, so it's impossible to miss," forcing everyone to stare at her. "I see," said Naruto with a frown. "Anything else you learn, Granny?" Sakura questioned, "Granny?" As all the guys flew back with nosebleeds except Naruto. The cat approached the islander and vanished behind it. She then stood up, her arms across her chest, completely nude, and said, "Yes, I am his grandmother. Why?" "Damn it, I was positive the bastard was gay," Naruto said, glancing at Sasuke, who was twitching as he approached and kicked Sasuke, Kiba, Shino, and Kakashi. He said, "Damn it, stop thinking dirty about my grandmother." Tenten glanced at Guy and Lee's squirming bodies as they both muttered, "Too much youth." Tsunami said, "Excuse me miss, but could you please put on some cloths? I have a young son upstairs who is not ready to see a woman like that." Kurenai, who was staring at Asuma as he approached, asked, "If you're Naruto grandmother as he claims, then how do you look so young?" As Siafon reached into a pouch and tossed over a set of clothes, which Yoruichi put on. Siafon explained, "It's a side effect of Thier bloodline miss, they age slower, it's one of the reason Thier clan was sought after so much in history." "So you wish information about the Sharingan? What is it you need to know?" asked Guy as everyone stood up again, and all of the guys, except for Naruto, continued to look at Yoruichi. According to Naruto, everything. With a frown, Guy turned to face Kakashi, who shrugged and remarked, "Prove your Naruto." Naruto looked at him and replied, "You already know I can't do the one thing you want as proof because in order to activate my bloodline I had to lose the ability to use chakra and in the same process lost that." Ignoring the other Junin's shocked expressions, Kakashi remarked, "Yes, I know that, but there still must be some way you can prove your Naruto." With a sigh, Naruto placed his hand on his head and said, "Fine." He then handed Siafon his captain's coat, and when he reached for his shirt, everyone gasped except for his girls, who saw his muscles and scars. "Happy now? These are all the scars I have from the villagers' attacks on me for what my father did to save the village. You want any more proof, then you can go to hell, Kakashi, because that's all I got." Naruto pointed to a scar over his kidney, saying, "In fact, if you look right here you should see the same scar I got on my 6th birthday when you and Weasel saved my life." "All right," Kakashi said with a frown, "I think you're Naruto, and from what I can see, you no longer have that." After putting on his captain's jacket and shirt, Naruto nods and says, "Now, could you please tell us what the Sharingan does?" Sasuke replied, "Why are you wanting to know so much about my bloodline, Dobi? I mean, if there is someone else out there with it I have the right to know. Why can't I get a simple answer?" Naruto asked himself as he glanced up at the ceiling. Ayame responded, "Listen Uchiha-san, we need to know because the guy is a threat to our family and friends. We need to find out what he is able to do with it because those who have faced him have already had bad results, but luckily so far no one has died but have come close, so can you please tell us what you can?" When a beeping sound interrupted Sasuke's sentence, Siphon reached into her pocket, took out a cell phone, flipped it open, and said, "Siphon here. The second squad has found 2 Jinchuriki already in Cloud and 1 in Suna and have released the demons that were inside them, but they have had to take all 3 into protective custody because their villages tried to kill them," Siphon said, frowning as she listened, before closing it and whispering in Naruto's ear. Naruto looked at him and said, "Where are they putting the 3 at now for protective custody? I mean, I don't think they can take them back home." Siphon, who had taken a step back, stated, "Currently the second squad has moved all 3 to a safe house we have here in the elemental countries, but it looks like all 3 are going to die because they can't handle the process that well." Naruto replied, "Very well, contact the 4th squad and have Yunohana send someone to them to make their final hours here as painless as possible, then have the second squad track down the other 5 and deal with them accordingly." Sakura asked, "Why are you giving her orders, Naruto?" as Siphon nodded and went outside. Naruto glanced at Sakura and responded, "I don't answer to you, Sakura, now. If you don't mind, I got things I need to do and places to go, so would you please give me the info on the Sharingan so you can return to your mission and I can get the hell out of here." Someone said, "Yeah, run away because you can't do anything here. You act like you're some big badass, but you're nothing compared to Gato, he will kill you." Naruto laughs and replies, "You can't kill Death Kid, so what got all of you afraid of this Gato dipshit anyways? Even the Junins seem a little tense." Asuma took the cigarette out of his mouth and, "Gato is the head of the multi-billion-dollar shipping empire. He has his hands in drugs, slave trafficking, money laundering, you name it. He's got a piece of the action. He's got this country in a stranglehold and is chalking the life out of it. He publicly executed the little boys there who is named Inari, stepdad, last year in front of the entire village with his family all in front. We're here to help free the country by having the bridge finished." Not really caring, Naruto paused and said, "I see, so can I get that information now?" "Can't we do something for them?" Tenten said as she approached him and gave him a headshake. "Alright, look, if this Gato is so much trouble for you, then how about a deal? If we take Gato out for you, then will you give us the information on the Sharingan we want?" Naruto said, letting out a sigh and glancing at Ayame, who appeared dejected, and Tenten, who was on the verge of tears. "What can the dead last like you do, idiot?" snorted Sasuke. Naruto replied, "Agree to the deal and you will find out, Teme." Kakashi replied, "I don't know what your sensei are thinking, Naruto, but I am not letting a genin go against Gato and his men." As he turned to head for the door, Naruto said, "Tucci, Dustin, make sure no one follows me." In front of the door, Kakashi declared, "I am not letting you pass, Naruto." With the exception of Ayame, Tenten, Siphon, and Yoruichi, everyone was shocked when Naruto Flash stepped away and said, "Some people never learn." "Where did he go?" inquired Ino as she abruptly left. Yoruichi remarked, "Based on his energy, I would say about 3 miles east of here right now, heading toward Gato Place." Guy responded, "What was that? Even I can't go that fast, and who was she?" Siphon replied, "That was the goddess of Flash, Yoruichi Shien Urahara, mother to Minato Namikaze, the yellow Flash of Konoha and grandmother to Captain Commander Naruto Uzumaki Shien, the god of Flash." Kurenai remarked, "You mean that Naruto is the son of the Yondaime?" As all the adults except Kakashi went pale. With a nod, Siphon replied, "Yes." Shikamaru responded, "If what you said is true, then why is it that Naruto has been an orphan all his life, and why is it now that his family has come for him? Something is not adding up." Siphon turned to Kakashi and said, "Why don't you tell them, Kakashi-san? Why don't you tell how the village council of Konoha has tried to have Naruto executed since the day he was born? Why don't you tell how all they know about the true defeat of the Kyuubi was a lie since it's free again? Why don't you tell how all those scars Naruto has on him is from where the villagers have tried over and over again to kill him because his father decided to make him a Jinchuriki?" With a grin on her face. Kakashi looked at him and said, "I don't know what you're talking about," while the other adults in the non-soul society all went pale. Drawing everyone's attention, Shikamaru scowled and remarked, "So that's it, huh? That's why everyone seems to hate Naruto." Ino inquired, "What are you talking about, Shikamaru? What does she mean the truth about the Kyuubi was a lie? What does this all have to do with Naruto?" She looked perplexed. "Jinchuriki, the power of human sacrifice. It's a word that is given to someone who has a demon sealed in them," Shikamaru said, looking at Asuma. All of the teenagers, with the exception of Tenten and Ayame, were wide-eyed. Sakura remarked, "So Naruto is a demon." Siphon planted Sakura in the wall faster than you could blink, shattering the boards where she struck. Siafon said with venom in her voice, "Never call him a demon. He never had a choice in the matter. His father, in order to save you and everyone else in that damn village, sealed the demon in him by summoning the leader of the Shinigamis at the cost of his mortal life. Naruto was only 3 fucking hours old, Pinky, when that happened. Demons are immortal and can't be killed, even with sealing them inside of an infant. As soon as a demon is released by the death of the child or being released through different means, they go into hibernation until they recover their strength. They return from wherever they go to hibernate. He did have the Kyuubi in him before he left Konoha, but when he was brought to where the rest of his family was, he underwent a ritual that allowed the Kyuubi to be released from him, so he no longer does have the demon. We released it so he could use his bloodline if Kyuubi ever returns to fight Konoha again. That's your problem, because personally everyone in Soul Society believes Konoha should be burned to the ground for what they did to him. Never call him that again or I will kill you." As she was seething in the end. "Oh yeah, bitch, and what did we do that's so bad to the damn dead last, huh?" Sakura sneered, wiping the blood from her mouth. Tenten replied, "Shut the hell up, Sakura, before I shut your mouth for you." Siafon, Ayame and I had to, all three along with several others, had to watch every memory of his life since birth to help save his life from a powerful genjutsu, and guess what? He has a photographic memory of everything that happened to him from about 2 weeks old on. He remembers being locked in a broom closet as an infant. He remembers being kicked out of the orphanage at 4 years old in the middle of winter to live off the street. He remembers every time someone charged him $15 for a loaf of stale molded bread. He remembers how every time his apartment the third gave him was broke into and destroyed. He remembers being raped by villagers and shinobi, making everyone wide-eyed who didn't know, and Hinata, Kurenai, and Ino to gasp and nearly have tears in their pupils. Ayame said, "And those were the kinder things that happened to him, Sakura. He's had Hyugas hit him over and over with Jukin strikes until his chakra points were destroyed. When he's been in the hospital, he's had acid placed in his IV, poison in his food. He's had members of the Inuzaku clan have their dogs attack him, nearly severing his arms and legs. He's had members of the Uchiha clan who have used Kaden Jutsu and Genjutsu on him to make him experience the pain of being burned alive and then reliving, and all the other clans did things to him as well as civilians, and it just because he was the only thing standing between the village and Kyuubi. The only reason that he is still alive today is because being a Jinchuriki gives you super healing. You call him the dead last, but when your teachers take your books and burn them and then cast Genjutsu on your test and kick you out of class for asking a question, then there is no way for you to be anything but the bottom on test. It wasn't until he earned the respect of Iruka that he ever got a decent chance at the academy, but by then it was too late for him to recover before graduation. You want to know what's funny? You think he's dead last, but then tell me how in broad daylight did he paint the Hokage monument without being detected until he was done and lead Anbu, Chunin, and a couple of Junin on a chase for 3 hours before he was finally caught by Iruka, who knew Naruto was better than people make him out to be, making each of the teens remember the incidents in school as well as that prank. In an attempt to refute what she was hearing, Sakura scowled and questioned, "If what you're saying is true, then why is it we were told that the Yondaime killed Kyuubi? I mean, it's in the books at the academy." Asuma murmured, "Dad passed a law saying that it was illegal to tell anyone who did not know the truth about the fate of Kyuubi to anyone under penalty of jail or death, so Naruto could try and have a normal life, but the adults either ignored the law or went around it by shunning him and telling each of you that he was a bad person or something like that and to stay away from him. That's why I left Konoha for nearly 7 years, because I asked Dad to let me adopt him after I stopped an attack on him once, but the council made it where nobody could adopt him because he was an adult. They made Dad make him legally an adult at the age of 4 so that way he could get his own apartment, since nobody would take him in and the orphanages all kicked him out, removing the skepticism the teens had." Kiba replied, "I can't believe all this. Why would people do that to him?" Kurenai breathed a sigh of relief as she, "Because people are afraid, Kiba. I remember the Kyuubi attack. I remember seeing people dying right and left. I saw as the Kyuubi would just ignore the attacks that he was with and kept coming. Everyone was helpless to stand up to him." Shino continued, "Humans are illogical when it comes to those who are different. My clan all knowed about him since most of us saw him as similar to us, but even we had a few members who were not logical enough to tell the difference between the bug inside of him and him. When we found out about it, we had them removed from the clan." As he raised his glasses, Neji's eyes widened as he recoiled and stepped back from Hinata as she spoke in a stuttering, quiet voice. "I remember when he was 8, Naruto had tried to hide in the woods for his birthday to keep from being attacked, but some members of my clan used our bloodline to find him and they led a group of villagers to attack him. I actually killed a member of my clan that day using the cage bird seal to save him." According to Asuma, and the worst part is he never knew why he was being attacked until the day he graduated when Mizuki tricked him and tried to kill him. Hell, he didn't even know who his parents were from what I understand, though only a few of us actually did. myself included. Dustin stated, he didn't, when we took him and the girls here away to take him to meet his family, that was one of the things we had to inform him about. He didn't know if his parents had died or just abandoned him like the villagers tried to tell him. Tucci replied, if it wasn't for Ayame and me then he would most likely have starved to death over the years since he couldn't buy anything but instant ramen that wasn't already ruined. Guy glanced at Kakashi and replied, you're being awfully quite my youthful rival, why aren't you saying anything about your sensei's son since me and you both saved him on several occasions? After shrugging, Kakashi remarked, you say something, Guy. With a frown, Guy remarked, this isn't the time for cool hip attitudes, Kakashi. He then slapped Kakashi in the head, shocking everyone by sending him flying into the air. Kage Bunshin must have pursued Yoruichi-sama and Naru-kun, Siafon remarked with a frown. With a twitched eyebrow, Hinata turned to face Siafon and asked in her typical tone, what are you to Naruto-kun? Siafon said, it's complicated, let's just say we're close and leave it at that, after glancing at Tenten and Ayame. Shoji replied, how did you both know who his parents were, and if he had family then why didn't they take him in over the years? Dustin murmured, Tucci and I have known both Kushina and Minato since before Minato went to Konoha and Kushina went to Whirlpool. As children we were all originally from Soul Society and as children and we were sent to different villages because our home was in a war that we are still in. With a frown, Shikamaru questioned, what war? Tucci said, you wouldn't know about it, our home village is beyond the elemental nations and our enemy is unknown to you all. We're not allied with anyone in the elemental countries, but we have been with Konoha during the last great war, but because of what has happened to Naruto we refuse to aid Konoha now. As for why his family could not take him in or us over the years, if we tried to take him away from Konoha before we ever left the Fire Country, the council would have had us hunted down and most like would have resulted in the death of Naruto or our daughters, so we had to wait until he became a ninja of Konoha where the council couldn't legally do anything. As for his family, there are things that you would have to know about our village. There are certain security features that can't be bypassed, and as a child not born there, Naruto, Tenten and Ayame would not have been able to enter the village without dying, and they couldn't come and take care of him in Konoha for more than a few days because of our enemies would have tracked them down and then either killed Naruto or used him against them and then killed him. All any of us could do was when they did come by and see him was give them a place to stay or help keep an eye on him. As everyone appeared to think, Shikamaru remarked, this is troublesome. Everyone scowled. Sakura replied, how could he smile so much if his life has been that bad? As she looked down, Ayame remarked, it was a mask of emotions he hid behind, he's hardly ever showed his real smile. What do you want to know about the Sharingan? Guy asked, scowling as he glanced at the three women. According to Tucci, as much as possible, Guy said, well, with a nod. As he was jumping from tree to tree across the island, Kakashi noticed a figure leap out in front of him and remarked, so you saw them, Jiraiya? As he jumped ahead of Kakashi, Jiraiya nodded and remarked, yeah, I followed them when they hooked up with Tucci and Dustin. I had a Kage Bunshin follow the cat since something seemed odd about it, especially when I saw Naruto tails. I learned where Gotei base is, let's go before it's too late. Naruto continued to flash step until he reached the opposite side of the island, where he saw a building that resembled a warehouse. He scowled as he surveyed the area, and a short while later, Yoruichi appeared next to him and inquired, so what are you planning, Naruto? Naruto stated, I figure if that Gotei guy is as rich and dirty as they claim, then he's going to cost a lot of people their lives and more souls for us to clean up, which we can't afford to happen right now, so I figure if I take him out then it will solve the problem for now. Alright, so what about all his men? Yoruichi asked, nodding. I figure if I went in as a cat then they won't know it's me and I can find him and kill him easier, Naruto said, glancing at the security. Naruto sighs and says, okay, you can come, as Yoruichi nods and transforms into a cat. Yoruichi replied, I don't remember asking for permission and I wouldn't stay out even if you told me to. After giving her a quick glance, Naruto transforms into a cat and they both leap from the tree and sprint in the direction of the warehouse. Naruto nods and they both leap across the top of the crates until they reach the stairs, where he leaps up onto the flat walkway near the crate. After the patrol passes by, they sneak behind a few barrels, run inside the open bay door, and then quickly jump up on top of a stack of crates. They both sit down and look around, and Yoruichi hits Naruto with her tail and gestures toward a set of stairs that lead up to an office. Naruto begins scratching at the door as Yoruichi nods. He continues doing this for a few minutes before the door opens and he dashes into the room. Gotei was reading some papers at his desk a short while ago when he heard a scratching sound. He turned to look around and asked himself, what's that noise? As the commotion persisted, he instructed his two guards, Find that noise and get rid of it. Yes, Gato, said one of the sword-wielding guards, who then circled the room before approaching the door and opening it to let a cat in. The guard turned and grabbed for the cat, saying, "Damn cat." He was about to grab it when the cat leapt up and began clawing at his face. Then he leapt back into the air and transformed into Naruto, who swiftly drew his sword and uttered the words, "Shine brightly, Orochimaru Cage." His sword changed into its single blade, and he ran at Gato, who had moved away from his desk. He sliced Gato from his right shoulder to his left hip. Naruto turned and kicked the man before grabbing Gato's body and flash-stepping away as the first guard reached for his sword. Before Kakashi and Jiraiya landed opposite him, Naruto emerged from the trees outside the warehouse, and Yoruichi landed next to him. Naruto then threw the top half of Gato's body, with his head on it, to the ground and uttered the words, "Mission accomplished. So do we have a deal?" Yoruichi caught Kakashi's eye, and Jiraiya responded, "Only if you answer some questions." Kakashi leapt down and sealed Gato's body as Naruto glared at him and said, "Well, take care of the mess." He then flash-stepped away, Yoruichi following a few minutes behind them. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes as he waited for him, thinking, "Who is that and how come I can't sense them?" as a shadow leapt away. Naruto said, "Gato dead, so what's wrong with all of you?" as he glanced around the house where Tazuna lived and noticed that everyone was depressed. "What's wrong here? You all look like someone died," Yoruichi said as she abruptly moved in next to him. "We got some info on the Sharingan from Guy," Siphon stated. "Did you really have the Kyuubi in you, Naruto?" Sakura inquired. After giving her a quick glance, Naruto turned to face Sakura and inquired, "What are you talking about?" Ayame replied, "We told them about some of the things we saw in your memories." Looking at his three daughters and their fathers, Naruto scowled and remarked, "It doesn't matter, I know where those who care for me are and that's all I need. So what do we know about the Sharingan now?" Dustin explained, "The Sharingan has several levels. The first level allows the user to copy hand seals and slows things down a little. The second level slows things more and gives the user a little warning about what the jutsu is going to do and cancels some genjutsu. The third level cancels all genjutsu and also allows the user to cast genjutsu. They don't know anything about the other level besides the fourth level can cast black flames that burn for 7 days and nights and can place a person in an ultimate genjutsu that can be used to torture someone for 72 hours in less than a second." When Jiraiya and Kakashi each appeared in a whirl of leaves, Naruto scowled and opened his mouth, asking, "What about the ability to control demon chakra or implant suggestions in a person's mind?" Siphon stated, "They don't know anything about that besides what they claim Uchiha Madara, who was able to control the Kyuubi, but he was killed by the Shodiami Hokage." With a nod, Naruto inquired, "Have you relayed the info to the 12 squad?" Siphon replied, "Not yet, we had just finished talking when you arrived." As he began to head for the door, Naruto nodded and said, "Good, let's go." Tazuna then questioned, "Is Gato really dead?" "Yeah," Naruto replied, "I gave the body to Kakashi." With a scroll in hand, Kakashi declared, "I got what's left of his body here." According to Sasuke, "Fight me, Dobi." Naruto turned to face him and remarked, "No, it's a pointless battle." Shino responded, "If I can ask Naruto, would you be willing to talk to a few of us for a little while? We have many questions about what we have heard." Shikamaru replied, "We might be able to help you in your war you guys were talking about." When Naruto turned to face his sheepish companions, Shikamaru, Shino, and Asuma all simultaneously thought, "So Naruto is the leader here." Naruto replied, "You can't, it's a war that will never end, it's a war that has cost the lives of hundreds of millions over the years. Just worry about your home and your village." As Shino put it, "But it is your village as well, Naruto." Naruto looked at him and replied, "For now I plan to talk to the Hokage and ask to resign my shinobi status when I return to Konoha so I can leave. I have nothing in Konoha currently." "What about your friends, Naruto?" Sakura asked. Naruto looked at Sakura and responded, "What friends, Sakura? The only people over the years who have actually taken a role in my life are those who are traveling with me currently besides the Hokage himself. To all of you I am nothing but the dead last." To everyone's surprise, Hinata yelled, "That's not true, Naruto-kun." He took a look at her and replied, "Fine. You want answer to questions, then ask them now, my friends, and I will stay here till tomorrow since it's nearly dark, but once we leave I won't answer anything else and I have the right to refuse any question if I chose to. Deal?" "Deal," said Sasuke. "How did you get so fast?" "According to Naruto, I trained to be. Teach me," Sasuke said in a firm tone. "No," said Naruto. Every soul warrior recoiled as Jiraiya asked, "What are you exactly, Captain Commander of Naruto?" The others stared at him sternly. With a narrowed gaze, Naruto asked, What do you mean? Jiraiya responded, your jacket which has the kanji for squad 1, the girl there. The one who claims to be your bodyguard has the kanji for squad 2 on hers. I figures she must be a captain commander as well. So what exactly is these squads? It's you call Narukan. Things are going to heat up soon anyways. Siphon snickered as Naruto snorted. After he flipped back into a cat and leapt onto Tenten's lap, he scowled and said, tell me what you know about Soul Society and how you know I am a captain commander, and if you have enough information I will fill in the blanks, otherwise I refuse to answer. Deal. Tenten began petting Naruto. Jiraiya took a seat and replied, agreed. You fought someone called Yamamoto. You fight something called Hollows. According to Soul Society, all of the people here are originally from another place, but they claim to have wiped everyone's memories of where we supposedly are from. So it was you I sensed when we were talking in the woods after you held Dustin and Tucci hostage. How was it you hid your energy level so well? Everyone asked, giggling at Jiraiya and Naruto's snickers. Jiraiya replied, I have my ways and you're right, I was there so you know what I overheard. Naruto replied, and what, if you heard everything then you already know the answer to your question. Kakashi responded, have you really met your parents, and if so answer me this, what is it your father told me not to ever use again? Only him and me would know that answer. Siphon, would you get in touch with the 11th squad and find out that answer for me? Naruto sighed. Siphon grabs her cell phone and says, this is Siphon to Soul Society. Yes, I need the data I am sending to be sent to the 12th squad pertaining to the Sharingan, and I also need a question sent to the 11th squad to the 4th seat and ask him what was it he told his student to never use again, and put a rush on that info. As she put the phone down, Kiba responded, but wait a minute, you all said that Naruto father the Yondaime gave his life to seal the Kyuubi. How can he be alive to answer that question? Wait till we get an answer back, Naruto said, closing his eyes and purring as he rubbed his fur with a Tenten hand. Everyone stared at him, remained quiet, and waited. Tsunami turned to face her father, who replied, I don't know either, dear. It's the Chidori. He told you it creates tunnel vision. Kakashi no Baka, and he also wanted me to inform you, Naruto, that the 11th squad has already run into 3 hollows, low levels, but it's only a matter of time, Siphon said as she hung up the phone after a ringing noise that lasted for about 5 minutes. With a scowl, Naruto remarked, I see. As Naruto scowled at him, Kakashi said, I believe you now. I hate to say it, but you really are a... and then stopped talking. So is there anything else? I don't know about you all, but I am a little hungry and tired, so if you all want, Ayame and I can make everyone some ramen to eat, Tucci said, aware of what was going to be said. As she stepped away, Yoruichi said, I am going to patrol the area for any activity. Ayame got up and she and her father went into the kitchen with Tsunami to start cooking. When Kiba saw Naruto curled up and fell asleep, she said, that is just so wrong to see him like that. Lee said, so Tenten, how has your training been? As Tenten burst out laughing. Tenten replied, good, actually all 4 of my grandparents have been teaching me and it's really exciting stuff, well, most of it anyways. Kakashi responded, since it appears Naruto is going to cut ties to Konoha, what about you, Tenten, are you planning to also? Tenten turned to face her father and said, maybe I don't trust Konoha as I once did, especially after I learned about the time some ninja threatened to rape and kill me and burn our shop to the ground if they found out we sold any more weapons or cloths to Naru-kun. This statement caused everyone to gasp. As he examined the scroll containing Goto's body, Tazuna remarked, if that is the way Konoha treats their own, I won't be going to Konoha for any other missions after this one is done and paid for. You all sound just as bad as Goto is or was. The Konoha nins all scowled at this. If Goto is dead, then why are they still here, Dad, and why are you still going to pay them if that cat guy killed Goto as he said when these other people didn't do anything? Inari's voice asked as he descended the stairs. Inari, if it weren't for then, your grandfather would have made it back home and there to guard him until the bridge is finished, the Tsunami voice reprimanded. Inari replied, then why don't we pay the catman to guard him and just send these people away? As he stretched and popping noises could be heard, Tenten winced and yelled, Claws. Naruto, still curled up in a ball, said, I don't need the money, kid, since Soul Society doesn't use it. Besides, I got a war to fight, kid. I don't have time to babysit. As he jumped off her and sat down between her and Siphon, Naruto said, oops, sorry Ten-chan. He then changed back to his normal self, stretched his arms above his head, and pulled each girl closer to him while his back popped. This caused everyone to turn to stare at him. Naruto grinned and said, I know what you think, Hinata, but there are things you have to know and understand. The only reason I agreed to answer any questions is because I have always known about your crush on me. This caused all of the teenagers to widen their eyes as Hinata's eyes widened and tears began to well up in the corners of her eyes. If you knew then why didn't you say anything? Inquired Hinata. Naruto glanced at her and said, and what, have your family punish you for being associated with the demon? Have the village call you demon whore and treat you like they do me? I wouldn't wish that on my enemies, much less someone who tried to be nice to me like you. I wanted to tell you so we could be friends, but you always fainted or people were watching, so if we ever became friends it would have to be a life of lies. If I am going to be with anyone as either friends or more, then I don't want to live a lie I have done that all my life already. Besides, the dead shouldn't be with those who are living. Shikamaru replied, all of you had said something like that before. Why do you keep referring to yourselves like you're dead? Naruto breathed a sigh of relief and said, you asked earlier what exactly am I the captain commander of? I will tell you since it doesn't matter right now and you're all going to see proof of it soon anyways since the war has taken a turn for the worse. I am Captain Commander Naruto Shien of the 1st Squad of the Gotei 13 Shinigami, replacing Captain Commander Yamamoto, who was the actual Shinigami who sealed Kyuubi inside of me after my father summoned him. I am a Soul Reaper along with Tenten, Dustin, Tucci, former captain of the 2nd Squad Yoruichi and the current captain of the 2nd Squad Siafon. Here we send the souls of the departed to the other side or to hell if they were evil, and we are currently in a war with the lost souls of people who were consumed with rage, hatred, and other dark emotions called hollow, who devour the souls of the dead and the living. As he looked around, when a snicker alerted everyone to the stairs and revealed a figure standing behind Inari, Naruto's eyes widened and he snatched up his sword, saying, "You. I wouldn't advise it, Shinigami, unless you wish for me to devour this boy's soul here," the figure in the spiral mask and black cloak said, grabbing Inari as everyone assumed a fighting stance. With a frown, Naruto asked, "What do you want here?" The figure was saying, "Tobi here to tell you to withdraw the other Shinigami from here and leave the other Jinchurikis to me. I have plans for their souls and your meddling by releasing the demons is ruining my plans." Naruto replied, "No can do, jackass, release the boy and let's head outside." Who would have thought a Quincy would be here? You have strange bed partners, Naruto-kun, Tobi said, snickering as he was about to respond when an energy arrow flew at him. As she pulled back another arrow, Ayame uttered the words, "Release the boy or the next one won't miss." Ayame gasped and said, "No don't," Tobi smirked and said, "I don't think so, you all just kids in this game, let's see if you're as good as your ancestors." He then pulled something out of his hand and showed everyone a circled disc, which he broke and sent flying into the air. "Have fun, Shinigami," Tobi said as he phased away, releasing Inari. Naruto uttered the words, "Shit, I hate that bastard." Ayame replied, "Naruto-kun, we need to get ready to fight. That was hollow bait, it's used to draw large numbers of hollows." When Akamaru started to whimper, Jiraiya asked, "What was that noise and what's going on?" He said, "Ayame, Tenten, Dustin, Tucci, I want all of you to guard the house and those inside Siafon. Contact Soul Society and inform them what's going on and tell them we need reinforcements," as he approached the front door. Kakashi approached Naruto and asked, "What's going on?" as Siafon hastily took out her phone. "I don't have time for this shit. Move, Kakashi," Naruto said, drawing his sword from its sheath. "Shine brightly, Orochimaru Cage." As his sword transformed into a single-bladed sword of light, Asuma uttered, "The Raijin." At that moment, the wall behind Kakashi burst open as a clawed hand tore away at the roof in the front of the house, causing several people to scream in fear. When everyone rushed out of the house to see what was happening, they noticed a 20-foot-tall, black-looking object wearing a white mask ignoring him. Naruto leapt past Kakashi and stood on the air. Naruto then flash-stepped in front of the mask and cut it in half. When the body started to disintegrate and transformed into a man that they could all see, Tazuna exclaimed, "Gato." As she struck Zanpakuto in the head with her butt, Siafon remarked, "It's his soul. See the plate on his chest, it doesn't have a chain, so he's dead." Gato screamed, and everyone watched as gates with skulls on them rose out of the ground, and Sakura yelled, "What is that?" As the gates opened and chains sprang out, catching the yelling Gato and drawing him in before they closed and sank back into the earth, Tucci uttered, "The gates of hell." They all tensed when they heard another growl. They turned to face the sky, which was beginning to appear with several black-looking holes. Ayame pulled back her bow and began shooting at the hollows that were emerging from the holes. After releasing her Zanpakuto, Siafon said, "Sting all enemies to death." A golden stinger materialized in her hand, and she swiftly moved in front of a hollow, stabbing it in the mask. She clapped her hands and touched the ground as Tenten said, "Transmute Full Metal Alchemist." A fist erupted from the ground, shattering a hollow's mask that was approaching them. Tenten's hand was covered in a metal glove with a blade on it. With his arms and feet covered in fur and his height, arms, and legs doubled, Tucci pulled off his shirt, clenched his fist, and uttered the words, "Tremble Bigfoot." After stomping his foot, a wooden club emerged from the ground, and he started to move in the direction of a hollow that was charging at him. He drew back and swung the club into the hollow's mask. When Dustin pulled out a handle, water formed a blade that froze, and the ground around him turned to ice. Dustin said, "Well, might as well, freeze Ice Dragon." Then, as more arrows were fired by Ayame, he leapt into the air and started airwalking to where Siphon and Naruto were already engaged in combat. Kakashi was scanning the area while everyone was fighting when Yoruichi suddenly materialized in front of them and exclaimed, "Shit, what happened to summon all these hollows?" According to Sakura, it was something called a bait. When everyone realized Sasuke was gone, Yoruichi's eyes widened and she looked around before counting heads and asking, "Where is the Uchiha kid?" "Everyone stand guard, we're in over our heads here, so let them deal with this. Watch each other's backs in case one tries to sneak up on us, and if they do, go for the mask from what I can tell," Jiraiya said before Kakashi could finish speaking. The Konoha ninjas all watched in helplessness as the Shinigami battled the hollows for roughly 20 minutes. When two white hands appeared in the sky and started to pull apart, Ino screamed, "What the hell is that?" Yoruichi, who had remained near the group, remarked, "Shit, Amanos." She watched as it opened its mouth and a red beam began to form, and she looked around, saying, "Shit, no one here can deflect a Sero currently." She noticed that everyone was running low on energy. When Naruto saw the Manos, he screamed, "Everyone take cover," and began to move to assist the group in escaping. A voice said, "Bankai," as he approached, and before anyone could react, Ichigo appeared in front of Naruto and the others. He pulled his hand down in front of his face, revealing a mask, and yelled, "Cero!" before launching his own hand into the air to collide with the one that was fired down toward the group. Naruto stopped in front of Ichigo, who commanded, "Pull your people back, Commander, the 5th squad is here to take over." He then overpowered the other Sero and proceeded toward the Manos, destroying it. With a nod, Naruto uttered, "Ayame, Ten, Dustin, Teuchi, Siofon, pull back, the 5ths here." After a few minutes, Naruto noticed each of them as the hollows started to back off, and he sealed his Zanpakuto. He scowled, glanced around, and inquired, "Where is Teme?" According to Yoruichi, he vanished during the fighting. With a sigh, Naruto turned to face the stunned group and saw that the house had been destroyed. Tenten grinned as she touched the ground and clapped her hands, causing the house to start mending itself. When she was done, she passed out, but Naruto grabbed her before she hit the floor. As she entered the house and passed Sakura, Ayame remarked, "Believe him now." Sasuke Uchiha was standing at the base of a flight of stairs after being taken away, and as he looked up the stairs, he saw the same masked man from earlier sitting on a throne. "Who are you and why have you brought me here?" he asked in his arrogant voice as the Hollows and Shinigami were settling down at Tazuna's house. The individual replied, "You are foolish boy. I brought you here as the last of my line to exact my revenge." Sasuke narrowed his eyes, and before he could say anything, chains came from the wall and secured him. The man got up and lifted his mask, and Sasuke recognized a man from his own clan's past and said, "Uchiha Madara." As he opened his mouth and bit down on Sasuke's neck, the figure angrily remarked, "Foolish boy, that fool died years ago at what is called the Valley of the End, but I took his body as my own back then. No, just like Itachi, you are my evader who will carry out my will to all who dare oppose me. Now prepare yourself because I need to feed." When Sasuke screamed in agony, the figure devoured a piece of his soul. After a few minutes, he took a step back and declared, "Now boy, you are mine. I have played the Shinigami as fools for years, and now I wish to end their existence, and you are my key." "What did you do to me?" Sasuke asked, holding his neck while gasping. Pulling out a scroll, the man handed it to Sasuke and said, "I simply ate the part of your soul that control your body, but now I control it. All you have to do is talk and your body does the rest at my will. Now take this and return to Konoha." The floor collapsed on Sasuke as he grabbed the scroll, and he continued to fall until he passed out. Upon awakening, he found himself outside Konoha's gates, and the Chunin guards inquired, "Are you alright, Uchiha-san?" Kisame and Itachi landed next to Sasuke as he yelled, "Itachi, I will kill you." At that moment, a kunai struck the Chunin in the head, and a sword killed the second one. As the three figures started to enter the village, Itachi sighed and remarked, "I wish you could, little brother, then I would not be the puppet I am today." A number of Anbu soon showed up and attempted to stop the three, but Sasuke continued to move in the direction of the Hokage Tower while Kisame and his brother killed anyone who stood in their way. As he soared over the village in Iwa, Deidre remarked, I have truly become the art myself as a living piece that I cannot control my own body as I am not the statue at his control. What has happened to us, master? Why are we unable to control ourselves, and how did we get to mist from wave? Haku asked Zabuza as they strolled through the mist village. After beheading another man, Zabuza uttered the words, "I don't know Haku, I don't know." Both Conan and Pain were murdering everyone in the Hidden Rain village when Conan remarked, "This is not the world I imagined Pain to be in." As the same event played out all around the world, a figure smirked and said, "And so my plan finally comes together with one last piece of the puzzle." As he disappeared and reappeared in Soul Society in the chambers of the Captain Commander's office, and Yamamoto, who was sharing lunch with his life, looked up shocked and glanced at his wife, who seemed confused, and said, "Jericho, what are you doing here? Not that I mind, but..." And he stopped as he felt a blade at his neck from his wife, and Jericho chuckled and said, "You are a fool, Yamamoto. I have played you since the beginning. I was the one who told Aizen about Urahara invention. I was the one who convinced him to betray Soul Society. I was the one who sent the hollow after Ichigo. I was the one who whispered the idea to release the invention on the village. I was the one who sent each of the tailed beasts to the villages to be sealed. I was the one who sent Kyuubi to Konoha to be sealed in Naruto. I was the one who convinced the council there that it was too dangerous to let him leave the village and threatened the girls. I was the one who purposely led you to believe Naruto would be your successor. I set him up to become powerful. I was the one who sent him to Huko Mundo and arranged for him to meet your wife here and for her to come here. I was the one who reset the portals so mortals in the elemental countries could see the Shinigami and hollows, and I was the one who gave Naruto the orders that lead for all the strongest fighters in Soul Society to be in the elemental nations, leaving this place virtually defenseless." When he noticed his wife's expressionless expression, Yamamoto clenched his teeth. Jericho responded, "Don't be mad, you see, she has been my puppet for all these years and her mind is lost." While Anbu surrounded him, Sasuke stood in front of the Hokage Tower in Konoha holding the scroll. His hands opened the scroll, and his eyes widened as he saw several hollow bait discs fall to the ground. He screamed, "No!" as his foot rose up and started to descend. A flash was observed when Deidre and Iwa pulled out multiple hollow baits, and the bird he was riding began dive bombing into the center of the village. As Haku produced a number of hollow baits and tossed them into the air, Zabuza killed 2 Chunin in the mist, and needles flew and struck the disc. As everyone in Wave Country sat down to consider what to say, Inari yelled, "Hey, what the hell's wrong with my body?" He reached into his pocket, took out multiple hollow baits, and crushed them, causing everyone's eyes to widen. At that point in Soul Society, alarms went off saying, "Attention all Shinigami, multiple REITSU release detected in the elemental nations." I repeat, multiple REITSU release in the elemental nations. Hollow sightings are reporting everywhere. Begin immediate emergency procedures. "Why are you doing this, Jericho?" inquired Yamamoto. Jericho chuckled and replied, "You foolish old man, you really don't remember, do you? Remember when you were first punished along with your wife here to become the first Hollow and Shinigami? Before that there was but one death god who went by the name the Angel of Death. That was me. When Kami cursed you both, he took away from me my job that I had served since the dawn of creation, and instead of giving me a better job or a peaceful retirement, Kami made me a mere messenger. Do you know how much shame I experienced because of it? I vowed I would have my revenge, so since that day I have sat and waited, and now you shall see the fall of all that you and your wife have created." When he disappeared, a hollow started eating their soul as the Shinigami were getting ready to enter the elemental nation when a new alarm went off, saying, "Attention, hollows are appearing in Soul Society." I repeat, hollows are appearing in Soul. Wide-eyed, Naruto hurried outside after witnessing Inari break the hollow bait. He saw that the members of the 5th's squad, who had just been preparing to leave again, saw hollow portals form all around them. The sky turned black as night as the portal from Huko Mundo appeared, and he pulled out his Zanpakuto and said, "Shine brightly." Aragnar, Cage, Tenten, Ayame, and Siafon ran out beside him as his Zanpakuto came to life, and he screamed, "Bankai." He turned his wrist, and his blade became double-bladed, and he looked around, observing his girl's terrified expressions, thinking, "This can't be happening. What is happening here? I have to do something." Naruto was accompanied by Jericho, who remarked, "Well done, you foolish boy, you have fulfilled my wildest dreams." "What are you talking about? Can't you see what's happening?" Naruto asked, glancing at him. As the Naruto girls screamed out, "Naruto!" Jericho grabbed Naruto and vanished, saying, "Of course I can. This is all my revenge today. The Shinigami shall die along with all the hollows and everyone here, and then I will reclaim my honor as the Angel of Death, and it's all because of you." My dear Pons, I shall grant you one final gift. I will spare you. Naruto returned to the area in front of Inari's house, but it appeared that no one had been there for weeks. He asked, "What has happened?" while searching for everyone. Naruto sat down in the woods after searching for roughly 5 hours and pondered, "They're all gone, what happened?" He felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see that he was in a golden throne room instead of where he had been. As he prepared in case he had to fight, Naruto asked, "Who are you and where am I?" after noticing a person covered in pure white where he could not see their features. Naruto relaxed when the person said, "Peace be to you, young Naruto, I would never harm a pure soul as you." "What?" said Naruto. The individual replied, "I am Kami. Naruto, I have called you to my audience chamber so that I may speak to you. You are my chosen warrior Naruto, and I wish for you to clean up this mess for me." "Forgive me, Kami, for not knowing. What would you have me do?" Naruto stammered as he blinked and bowed quickly. Kami stated, "Everyone in Soul Society in the elemental countries has been turned into hollows, Naruto, including your family and friends. I have given you the power to save everyone in the elemental country and in Soul Society. Your Zanpakuto allows you to restore a person from being a hollow instead of killing the soul. I knew this was going to happen since the day I refused to give more power to Jericho and stripped him of the title of Angel of Death. I now want you to return to Soul Society and free it from the hollows there, freeing those who have been turned into hollows. You will then return to the elemental nations and do the same there. Do not worry about Huko Mundo because I made it where once a hollow left there during this time they could not return, and that goes for those in the elemental nations as well as Soul Society." Naruto replied, "But I am but one person, Kami, how can I do so much?" "You have never been alone, Naruto, because your guardian has been with you the entire time. Your guardian here is all the help you will need. You know his name. Call it forth and he shall walk beside you in the trial ahead. Do not waver and shine for the world." Kami grinned as Naruto's shadow took on his appearance in Soul Society after suffering from light blindness. "What did Kami mean, you have always been with me?" asked Naruto, who was standing atop the execution ground and could see hollow everywhere below. He closed his eyes and saw his doppelganger there. Cage laughed and replied, "In all this time you still don't understand, do you? I have been in your shadow all your life. I am a copy of you right down to the scars. It's ironic that you would call me Cage. You remember me telling you that before?" After giving it some thought, Naruto remarked, "Yeah, I always thought of you as some kind of bunshin since you look like me." After grinning, Cage remarked, "So you do understand." When the world returned to normal, Naruto blinked repeatedly as he looked thoughtfully. His eyes widened, and he grinned as he saw several hollows approaching him. He said, "Let's kick some ass, Cage Bunshin," as his shadow began to take shape and he appeared next to Naruto. The two of them screamed, "Bankai." Both Naruto and Cage held a single-bladed light and a single-bladed dark Zanpakuto as the word escaped their lips. "Let's do this," Naruto said. As he leapt into the air and charged into the hollows, Cage remarked, "Remember, Naruto, the black blade may not return someone but the blade of light will." Naruto turned and began running toward the ground. He ran toward a hollow, cut off its mask, blocked with a dark blade, and then ran on to the next hollow. He jumped up on the roof and sliced one of the 6 hollows that were circling him. When Naruto noticed that the 2 people he struck were unseated grunts, he said, "Head toward the execution grounds but try not to kill any hollows, just defend." Naruto saw some hollows pursuing the 2 men as they fled, but Cage came up behind them and cut the hollows who were pursuing them, and Naruto remarked, "Good idea." As he cut one behind him that attempted to strike his blind side, Cage grinned and remarked, "Of course, I thought of it." When a hollow emerged from the roof, Naruto leapt back and landed next to Cage, who rushed at the hollow that had attempted to harm him, slashed off his mask, and exclaimed, "Shit dude, this is fun." As he jumped on a hollow and stabbed it in the head while leaping to the next and the next, using all 3 heads as stepping stones and shattering each one's mask, Naruto uttered the words, "Shut the hell up and keep working. Thank God you're here. Granny, there's no time to explain. Head toward the execution ground and try that shield deal to keep hollows away while Cage and I deal with all the hollows, but try not to kill any," Naruto said, flash stepping away as a fist struck the ground where he had been, as the 3 transformed back into humans. Naruto stabbed the hollow from the back of the head, shattering the mask as Cage slid beneath it and deflected another hollow's follow-up blow. Naruto and Cage marched straight down the middle of the street, shouting at the recently released individuals to proceed to the execution site as the battle continued. "Hey, I don't know about you but I need some rest, let's fall back," Cage said shortly after. Both start walking slowly back toward the execution site after Naruto nods. After about 20 minutes, they noticed that Orihime had raised her shield, and she allowed them to enter. Cage then vanished back into Naruto's shadow, and Naruto collapsed to his knees. Naruto asked. How many so far do you think? After Orihime gave him a quick glance. Orihime continued, I've led about 200 in so far and most have been unseated members. Alright guys, listen, I can't keep this up forever and I have only been doing those inside of the actual say raid so far. I don't know how long Orihime here can keep her shield up, so your jobs are to protect here, Naruto said, sighing as he glanced at the liberated souls. A Shinigami replied, Sir, I might be able to help. My Zanpakuto allows me to transfer spirit energy to others. The black-haired man looked sheepish, so Naruto looked him in the eye and asked, What's your name, kid? His name was Hiazi Dunet. Naruto replied, Well, from this moment on your name is Battery. Get you ass over here and do what you got to, but give me some energy battery and then recharge Orihime, you got that? As he approached and placed his Zanpakuto on Naruto's shoulder, Battery replied, Yes, sir. A few seconds later, he apologized, saying, That's all the energy I got. Dude, I have half a mind to feed your ass back to the hollows again, Naruto said, shedding a few tears. Orihime replied, Can you use other people's energy as well as your own? Yes ma'am, said Battery, looking around at the others. Naruto uttered the words, You heard him people, move it, move it, move it, start a line and give us some damn energy or we are fucked. Alright, that's enough for me for now, charge Orihime and make sure nothing happens to her or Battery or I will shove my Zanpakuto up your ass. Do I make myself clear? Naruto said after regaining 3/4 of his energy after an hour of people starting to give him power. When they all saw his jacket, there were several cries of, Yes Captain Commander. Kage Bunshin and Naruto both charged down as before. After Naruto nods, however, when they reach the first group of hollows, Kage exclaims, Okay, what the hell's up with this? Why are they going in marching formation? As they charged toward the center, the hollows swiftly circled them, and the roofs on both sides collapsed as more hollows blocked their escape into the air. Naruto shrugged and remarked, Don't know, don't care, you take left, I take right, and he added, So that's it, a trap. Kage was saying, Remember what Yamamoto said about our fighting style origins. As he wrapped his tails around Kage's waist, Naruto blinked and said, Of course. Kage then did the same to Naruto, and with them back to back, they started to circle as more and more hollows attempted to attack. Soon after, Naruto and Kage spot an opening. Naruto releases Kage and leaps up at it together. They slit 6 hollows on their way down, creating an opening from which people started to rush from where they were lying on the ground as they retraced their steps. Naruto and Kage said, You know, I wonder which will be harder, this or the elemental countries. They both started to cover the people running toward the execution site. The elementals, let's keep going. Naruto's eyes darkened, and he charged forward, removing 6 hollows and bringing them back to normal. Kage quickly followed, picking up the scraps. Naruto crawled back inside the shield and collapsed while Orihime was sitting asleep and receiving energy from others. That's close to 2,200 people now, but Soul Society usually has 1300. I don't know if he can keep this up, she said, glancing back. When he awoke, Naruto inquired, How long? Over him, a woman on her knees said, 10 hours. When Naruto's eyes widened and he leapt to his feet, he saw hundreds of hollows striking the shield but failing to pass through because Orihime had a line of people waiting to help her with batteries. Naruto hurriedly stood up, called forth Kage, and dashed outside to launch an assault on the hollow, swiftly liberating its inhabitants. Naruto had stopped observing the people he had freed in order to focus on the next hollow, so when an arrow passed by his back and killed a hollow, he was startled and yelled, Don't kill them, as he kept fighting. Orihime replied, I know, I feel helpless as well just sitting here, but all we can do is kill the souls. He's the only one who could save them. Ashada. Not necessarily, Ashada grinned, adding, Naruto, fall back, I got an idea. After giving Ashada a quick glance, Naruto leapt back into the shield and questioned, What? Can't you see that I am busy? Ashada replied, Trust me please, I think something me and your grandfather did once. If it works then we can free everyone in half the time. With a frown, Naruto questioned, What is it? Ashada replied, Seal your Zanpakuto and place it on my head. With a deeper scowl, Naruto asked, What are you going to do? Ashada replied, If you do it I will fire one shot. If my idea works I can blanket every hollow in Soul Society with my rapid fire, freeing them all. After sealing his Zanpakuto and placing it on Ishada's head, Naruto closed his eyes and said, Fine. When a member of the 4th squad shocked Naruto by firing at one hollow and it fell to the ground, Ishada withdrew and said, Do it. With a sly smile, Ashada withdrew, and arrows soon started to fall, eliminating hundreds of hollows in a matter of seconds and transforming them back into pure souls. After a few hours, almost 3/4 of Soul Society had been released, and Naruto could see that everyone was ecstatic as more people arrived. It became simpler to stay charged. At this stage, the Shinigami started gathering the hollows so that Ashada could change back. All of Soul Society had been cleared of hollows by midday the following day, and Orihime, Ashada, Battery, and Naruto all passed out from exhaustion. When Naruto woke up a week later, he was in the Shion family's home. He sat up, looked around, and realized he was by himself. He then got out of bed, changed, and started to move through Soul Society because of their high spirit energy. He encountered Ashada and Orihime while walking and approached them, asking, "Where are all the higher-ranking Shinigami?" Ashada let out a sigh. "It appears they're all gone. Perhaps in the elemental country or Weko Mundo. We found the body of Yamamoto in his office dead along with his wife. It appears they died together." "If all the seated officers are gone, then how is it you both survived?" asked Naruto, scowling. Orihime replied, "It might have been because we were between worlds when the attack hit. I was bringing Ashada back from injuries. That's the only thing I can think of." Naruto responds with a nod. "Well, I know they're not in Huko Mundo. Kami sealed the gates, making it one way only from there, and the gates to the real mortal world is sealed as well." Ashada responded, "So what's the plan? You're the highest ranking officer here now, and with what has happened the people here won't follow anyone else." Naruto looked at him and said, "I want Soul Society to prepare for a possible counterattack. Securing this place is priority right now. Orihime, you are given a field captain position of the 4th squad, and Ashada, you're a field captain of the 11 for now. I want you both to go and find at least 5 seated officers for each division, and the 4th will prepare for injured and 11th will be responsible for security here. I will rest one more day and I will head to the elemental countries and start in waves since it's a small island, and see if I can't free some more and bring them here discreetly, since most of the ones there I will be fighting will be strong. Hopefully a few seated officers. You both can handle this, right?" In addition to saluting, they both said, "Yes, Captain Commander." "Good," Naruto said. "Move out." They both nod and leap away, and Naruto scowled as he walked around giving directions and assisting with the cleanup. The following day, Naruto ventured outside of Wave Country and made his way swiftly toward the island. As he approached the nearest source, he glanced around and thought, "Well, I can sense lots of spirit energy nearby from different sources." He heard a twig snap while he was strolling through the forest, and he ducked to the right as a hollow emerged from the trees. Without letting go of his Zanpakuto, Naruto broke the mask, causing the hollow to fall to the ground. Naruto saw that it was a young girl, perhaps 6 years old. Naruto quickly covered the girl's mouth as she began to speak, whispering, "If you scream we will both die. If you stay quiet and close to me I can get you someplace safe, okay?" The girl nods, and Naruto says, "Good," getting to his feet and thinking, that girl died because her spirit chain broke. I sensed what everyone else is feeling. As he started to lead the way to the next source, he came across an old man and then another girl. He sighed, then heard 2 hollows running across the ground at him, screeching loudly. He charged forward, splitting the face of one on the left, then the other, and both fell to the ground. Naruto's eyes widened, and he said, "Oh God, not them." When he saw that both figures were rising, he hurriedly put a sword beneath one of them, causing both to gasp, and he said, "If either of you so much as speak above a whisper I will send both your souls to hell. Do you understand, Sakura and Ino?" Naruto pulls back as both girls nod, and Sakura asks, "Where have you been, Naruto?" "I'm not sure how long it has been." Sakura, Soul Society, and the elemental nations all fell into the trap at the same time, and I was the only one who managed to get out. Naruto said, "Soul Society is now free, and I'm going to start here. Could you both tell me something?" Ino replied, "No, we were all at Tazuna House when that guy grabbed you and Tay. Next thing I knew I was being attacked by a monster. Hollows and you both died," Naruto said. Glancing at them, "You can now enter Soul Society since your chains of fate have been broken, but before I bring you all back, I would like to try to get at least 1 seated officer. You have 2 options right now. Follow me or perish. Since you are both ninja, I have recruited you both. Your job is to keep them together, keep an eye on the kids, and count how many I have free. Do you both know what I'm asking of you?" Ino replied, "Yeah, we understand, Naruto, and I am sorry for not being there for you as a kid." Sakura replied, "Me too." As he turned and started to leave, Naruto grinned and said, "Don't worry about it. The dead last has a world to save. Just wait till those assholes in Konoha find out." Both girls quickly recovered and started escorting the small group. 3 hours later, Naruto sighed and took out a phone. After a few rings, the newly appointed communication officer said, "Command here, go ahead." Naruto replied, "Open the gate. I got a group of 300 ready for evac." "All right, all of you. Walk single file down the middle of the hall with your hand on the person in front of you." Ino, Sakura, you both stay here until the end of the line and come though and make sure no one is left here or in the tunnel. Do as I say until we can get to the other side and you all should be safe. Let's go, Naruto said as an ancient set of doors opened, leaving everyone in shock. He then had an elderly-looking woman place her hand on Naruto's shoulder first after he started to lead the way. After Sakura and Ino emerged from the Soul Society tunnel about half an hour later, Naruto said, "Good job now for all of you who are new here. This is Soul Society. Basically it's the afterlife. The woman there is Orihime and a medic who can try and heal any who are injured, and the man there is Ashada and the current chief of security here. Follow them and they can help get you settled in." Naruto then turned and grabbed Sakura and Ino, and Flash stepped aside. Naruto released them as they grabbed their head when they appeared in the Shiin clan house, and Ino questioned, "What was that?" Naruto was saying, "Shunpo, look, this is my clan house. I brought you both here to use you both." Both girls looked pale and Naruto replied, "Not like that, damn it. I got 3 girls I love already. No, what I want is for you to find the library here and find the maps of the elemental countries I was told is here, and then get a hold of Orihime or Ashada and have them get you the hollow counts in each country and build me a battle map. I am heading back to Wave to free some more, and when I return you have better show some results and don't destroy anything," as he fled. Following Naruto's departure, Ino exclaimed, "Oh my god, when did he get so commanding and cool?" Sakura replied, "I know, I feel like I have a damn orgasm from him commanding me." Ino said, "He was commanding me." Sakura replied, "Like hell, Piggy, and when he sees how good a job I did for him he will forget you and those 3 sluts." Sakura followed Ino as she hurried into the house, saying, "Like hell, forehead." A shiver ran down Naruto's spine as he emerged from the tunnel in waves, and he thought, "I sense great evil." As more and more people emerged, Naruto said, "Well, I am back guys, and I got a couple of seated officers from the 1, 2, 3, and 6th squad in this group. Did I miss anything?" 3 days later, he emerged from the tunnel in Soul Society with another sizable group of people. He saw Orihime, who appeared ready to kill, and Ashada, who was prepared to fight. As Ashada put it, "How many did you get, Naruto?" Naruto replied, "I think I got all of Wave Country. What's up with you both?" "I want to kill those 2 girls, Ashada declared. After scowling, Naruto questioned, "What have Sakura and Ino done now?" Orihime replied, "Congratulations, Naruto, you're now the #1 most eligible fangirl victim in Soul Society. They made your map you wanted and then started a fan club." With a pale face, Naruto yelled, "No." After calming down, Naruto Flash stepped away and said, "Okay, get these people settled in and I will head to the house to deal with both girls and see where to strike next." "Should we have told him about that?" inquired Ishade. "No, let him find out on his own. Let's go," Orihime said. Naruto screamed. Sakura and Ino, front and center. As he arrived at his clan house, sweating profusely at the flowers and paintings that had been done, he thought, "That's it, they must die." Both girls ran out of the hall in less than a minute, and Naruto saw that they were extremely excited. He waved his hand across the yard and exclaimed, "What the hell is all of this?" Ino responded with, "Do you like it, Naruto-kun? I thought you would like some more flowers." After surveying the yard, Naruto said, "The flowers are nice, Ino, but I like things more natural." This caused the girl to lose her confidence. "What about the paint, Naruto-kun? Do you like the way I made the house more highlighted with neutral colors?" Sakura asked, recognizing her opportunity. Naruto replied, "No, I don't. The color it was before was my clan colors, and like I told Ino, I like things natural where I can relax, not be asphalted by people's invasion of nature. Now show me the map you made." As she and Ino led him into the house and into the library, where there were several detailed maps of the elemental country, Sakura was deflated but quickly regained his composure and said, "Right this way please." Naruto looked at the maps and said, "Well, good job on all of this, but now I need you to update the info again and keep this as up to date as possible so I can take out the smaller groups first before I get to the stronger enemies. Now please don't destroy my home." Ino inquired, "Do you think we should have told him about the kitchen?" "No, let's change it back before he finds out," Sakura said. Ashada was present when Naruto arrived at the gates and inquired, "Where are you heading now?" "I'm going to check out the various islands south of Wave," Naruto stated. "We'll have plenty of breathing room to pick off the others if I can clear the entire island." "So what did you think of the kitchen?" inquired Ashada. Twirling, Naruto said, "Kitchen? Nothing," Ashada said, "Don't worry about it. They better have it all fixed before I get back," Naruto snarled as he started to return to the elemental nation. Naruto sighed as he returned another group of souls to Soul Society, marking 3 months since the elemental nations fell to the hollows. When he saw that multiple squads were automatically settling people in, he used Shunpo to enter his clan compound, went into his bathroom, and started taking off his clothes before taking a long bath. Naruto crawled into bed and passed out after soaking for a while. It's been 3 months and he still hasn't found any of his family yet that he told us about besides his grandmother, who was lucky to be here. One of the 2 sorrowful-looking girls who were sitting outside the door to his room a few hours later said. The other one nods, saying, he's having nightmares again, after hearing a sound outside the door inside Ino. It's killing him. I know, Ino said with a frown. I might be able to assist him if I could still use my clan techniques and chakra, but Retsu doesn't operate in the same manner. All I can do right now is assist him with your assistance, just like we have been doing, but perhaps someday I might be able to accomplish something if I can ever gather enough spirit energy. With this last bunch now, that makes it around 113000 souls he has saved in 3 months, Sakura said, nodding as she gave Ino a stack of papers. Now there is no life at all on any of the islands, including the land of water, since so many have vanished. Reports also indicate that the Hollows have finally gained attention. Hollows have made multiple attempts to look into why the Retsu on the islands have vanished in the manner that they have, and they have run into the shield that the 12th Division has put up. So that means he has the actual mainland left then? Ino asked, glancing over the reports in her hand. Now, things will become more difficult. Both girls were startled by a voice that said, that is why we have yet to reveal our plan. They turned to see Orihime and Ashada standing there. Then what is your plan? Sakura inquired. Sakura fell backwards and flushed when the door to the room behind the girls opened and she saw Naruto standing there shirtless. Naruto saw everyone and asked, how long? 12 hours, said Ashada. Before we leave, Naruto, you need to get some more sleep. I can rest when I am dead, Naruto remarked, shaking his head. We are needed by those people. Has everything been set up? We now have at least 4 seated officers for each division, Orihime stated. Battery has been forced to train his ass off, in his own words, in order to raise his own spirit pressure as a result of your orders. The 11th squad's 3rd and 5th seats are both prepared to accompany us because they each have a Bankai, which will supply the energy you require when you need to refuel. In order to avoid having to make as many trips with big groups as you have been, Ashada and I are both prepared to repeat what we did here in order to free everyone. We also have 6 seated officers of the 2nd squad who are ready to begin using soul burials on people. We are only awaiting your readiness and the selection of the initial target. Where is the next lowest levels of Retsu now that the islands are cleared? Asked Naruto, glancing at Sakura and Ino. Ino said, it seems to us that Lightning Country is the next smallest, followed by Iwa, as Sakura glanced at her notes. Then, who has the most? Asked Naruto. According to Ino, ironically it looks like Suna has the most energy. That's not surprising at all, Suna, Naruto remarked. There must be something hollow about the desert on the surface. Huko Mundo is primarily a desert. Ashada added, the strongest ones were all way on the surface there, so it's not really that surprising. Where would Fire Nation be on that list? Inquired Naruto. Biting her lip, Sakura uttered, just before Suna. Naruto took a breath and said, I was afraid of that. All right, we will head toward Lightning Country first. Have the 12th Division put the shield around it so that way none of the Hollows from other areas can get in there. Once we start, the Hollows don't worry me that much. It's Jericho I am mostly worried about. When Naruto revealed the identity of the man responsible for these incidents, everyone there scowled at that name. Ashada replied, since the Hollows can't leave, we have the advantage over them for the most part, but the problem is we can't face every direction at once. There was a moment when Naruto said, we don't need to. The problem is that with what I got planned, it is going to cause more trouble. Once we start this, it is going to be all or nothing. We won't be able to return here until we finish the Lightning Country, and the moment we start, every Hollow in the Elemental Nations is going to know we are there, so by the time we get to the Fire Country and then Suna, they're going to be expecting us, and that will make them dangerous. And Jericho has been around longer than any of us, so he knows everything that we can do. I want all of Soul Society on alert. He is able to come and go as he pleases, and he may try another attack like he did before. Naruto, we will find them and free them, Orihime uttered. Naruto clenched his teeth and said, I know, I just wish I could have told them how much I cared for them before all this happened. I was such an idiot. Sakura remarked, I always told you that. She winced as Naruto glared at her, and he grinned slightly as he said, Sakura don't ever change. Ino replied, hey, how come she gets a smile and I don't? Naruto was saying, Ino, I heard your screams all the way back in the Elemental Nation from you and whoever you were with. Ino replied, I never. When Naruto began to giggle, Just kidding Ino, thank you both. I know that I have been hard to work for the last couple of months, and when this mess is over I will have someone escort both of you to the real human world in a pair of gigai and let you have a small day of shopping as payment my treat. With wide eyes, both girls exclaimed, "Deal." Despite the glares from both girls, Naruto turned and walked back into his room, saying, "But you both will have a budget. I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night." Orihime replied, "Well, you heard him. I will spread the word to all the divisions and you have everyone get ready." As he vanished from sight, Ashada nodded and said, "Right." Orihime said, "Thank you both for helping him. I know that you both started this as ways to be with him," but, as she started to leave, glancing at Sakura and Ino, Sakura stated, "I just want to be there for him. I see him like a brother I never had now, and Ino does as well. His heart belongs to those three and we both see that not even death will stop that." According to Ino, "I just wish I knew what type of person he really was when we were kids. I should have been kinder to him." As she vanished using Shunpo, Orihime remarked, "That is one thing you always live with, should have, and could have. I learned it's best just to make it and are so that way or will be can be better." With a sigh, both girls rose and started toward the 12th division to obtain the most recent information on the elemental nations. As a tiny tear trickled down his cheek, Naruto sat in his room thinking, "Ino, Sakura, thank you. Tenten Ayame Siafon, I miss you." 2 hours later, Naruto showed up in front of Soul Society's main entrance and exit gate. He stated, "Are all the shields up around Lightning Country?" As he saw Ashada, Orihime, Battery, Akaku, Yumachika, and 6 seated officers of the 2nd Division standing there. "Yes," Ashada replied, "they're currently operational. What is your plan, then?" Naruto was saying, "Just keep firing and you 6 do soul burials as fast as possible." Sakura yelled, "Here, Naruto." As she and Ino ran up, she held out a piece of paper and said, "This just came in." After reviewing it, Naruto remarked, "Thanks, Sakura. Okay, pay attention. Things have just become a bit more thrilling there. An espada has been found. I want Yumachika and Akaku to help me fight it. When he shows up I want you to let me back into Soul Society. Grandma, you are in charge of protecting Battery and her. Ashada, we might never be able to solve this issue without those two." Orihime inquired, "Naruto, how about you? Without you, we would be forced to kill them as usual and lose everyone who has change." As he touched both members of the 11th squad, Naruto remarked, "I know that is why I am taking the 2 strongest fighters in Soul Society with me as my bodyguards, right boys?" Akaku responded, "Hey, that's right, we are the current strongest fighters here." Yumachika exclaimed, "Isn't it beautiful? Are you 2 lovers?" said Naruto. As Naruto ran into the now open gate laughing, both blinked and grabbed their Zanpakuto, attempting to strike him. "Men," Orihime said, and she and the others started running after them. Sakura glanced at Ino as the gate closed and uttered, "So." It was Ino who said, "Your room or mine?" Sakura smirked and started to follow Ino, saying, "How about mine this time?" They rushed into Sakura's room. As soon as they arrived at the Shiwan compound, slammed the door, and Ino asked, "So how do you want it this time?" According to Sakura, "I think something hard and strong." As she inserted the object into a vat of liquid, Ino said, "Strong and hard it is then." Sakura responded, "Yeah, that's just perfect." She also laid a blanket to prepare. "Well, here we go." Forehead, Ino said, setting the paintbrush on the wall, while Sakura remarked, "I am glad Naruto allowed us to paint our rooms here. However, we want mahogany is such a great color to paint this room." Ino replied, "Yeah, at least he won't yell like he did when we painted the kitchen." Sakura dropped some paint onto the safety blanket to keep it off the floor and said, "Tell me about it. I thought we had loud voices." Naruto waited for the other members of his party to emerge from the tunnel after noticing that they had emerged precisely at the Lightning Country's border and the blue barrier that surrounded it. Ashada questioned, "So how are we going to do this and why did we start here?" after they had finished. "With this behind us, nothing can sneak up on us from behind, so all we have to do is attack whatever is in front of us," Naruto said, touching the barrier. Orihime questioned, "But there are no hollow here." "Yet," Naruto said, reaching into his pocket to retrieve multiple hollow baits, which he then snapped before anyone could respond. When a shield appeared and Naruto placed his Zanpakuto on Ashada's head, he said, "This is the stupidest idea I have ever seen. You are definitely related to Ichigo." After a few moments of silence, black portals began to appear and hollows could be seen approaching from a distance across the rocky terrain of Lightning Country. Naruto said, "All right everyone, here they come." Orihime touched the side of her head and said, "I reject." Hollows also started to emerge behind them, attacking the shield in an attempt to break through, while Naruto watched as Ashada continued to fire. 20 minutes later, Naruto scowled and remarked, "Well, there he is, boys, you ready?" As he saw a hollow that resembled a serpent moving across the landscape, devouring every hollow that stood in its way. It was Akaku who said, "You have to ask, I was getting bored." "Ashada, cover the area and fall back," Naruto said. As one of the second division opened a tunnel, Ashada nods and begins shooting multiple arrows into hollows, turning almost 1,000 hollows into souls. Orihime yelled, "Hurry, run over here and follow us." When she opened a door, Naruto, Akaku, and Yumachika ran out and started fighting, covering for the freed souls to run through and into the tunnel that was being held open. The second division led them down the tunnel while one was burying souls for those who were very old or young and might be run over by the faster ones. During this time, the snake-like espada eventually showed up. Naruto charged the espada and remarked, "Wonder if I can get a wallet out of him." As he threw the glass of wine he had next to him at the map, Jericho sat on a throne and looked at a map of the world. He thought, "Damn you, Kami, I know it's you who has stopped me from leaving this world. That boy has been a thorn in my side for the last 6 months, removing the hollows from the island nations first, and I couldn't stop him because by the time I realized he was there, they had already erected a barrier to prevent outside help. Even now as he attacks Lightning Country, I can't stop him, but let's see how he feels when his resolve is shattered soon. I'll have my revenge against him and then you." Jericho stood up and looked at the figures kneeling in front of him. He said, "It seems that you all are pleased to see your Captain Commander progress. But he's such a simple idiot who always wears his emotions on his sleeve. I can see that his resolve is weakening every day because he loses hope that he will find his precious people. Let's see how he feels when everything he has worked for is taken from him and destroyed. Kenpachi, I want you to go to Lightning Country and destroy everyone there, since I see 2 of your men are helping that fool leave no one alive but the boy. The rest of you not related to him are to return to Soul Society and destroy it, and every soul there leave nothing standing or anyone alive. Once complete, you are to return here." While the other captain and vice captain fought to escape as their bodies started to move, Ichigo yelled, "You bastard, if you didn't bite us we would all destroy you." Jericho stated, "I am the reason why the people here believes that if they summon the Shinigami he would devour their souls. I have been devouring the souls of anyone foolish enough to summon me ever since the day that Kami took from me my position and honor to give to that damn old man and his wife. With each soul I devour I gain power, even yours." "Great," Minato remarked, "it's Aizen all over again." Jericho chuckled and said, "Who do you think controlled Aizen? Now for the rest of you who are related to that boy, go to the remaining areas that he has not went to and kill everyone you and destroy the land as much as possible. Leave this world lifeless. Now get out of my sight and don't return until you finish your orders, but be quick about it." With a smirk. As the Espada's body disintegrated, Naruto stood in Lightning Country, panting, and remarked, "Good job, boys, we got him. Are you all ready to resume the conquest of Lightning Country?" Akaku replied, "Are you sure you can keep going? That fight took more out of you than it should, boss. I used my Bankai at the start of the fight so he and Ashada could continue the recovery process of the souls. He and I share the same energy. My powers allow me to absorb the spirit particles in the shadows around me. Even now I am absorbing small amounts from you both, but it's being sent into Ashada arrows by Cage. Once I reabsorb him I should be able to regain some of my lost energy, or not?" Naruto swallowed as he stood in midair and said, as Cage vanished and Naruto began to descend toward the ground, "Shit. He's passed out again. Without him we have to stop. We've done all here we can. Let's fall back to Soul Society and—" Akaku said as he sprang into action and grabbed Naruto before he could fall to the ground. Everyone turned to see Kenpachi standing on the other side of the barrier, pushing against it after releasing his eye patch. After a sudden power release stopped Akaku. Akaku replied, "Captain, I knew you couldn't be stopped by some damn hollows." Kenpachi was saying, "All of you get out of here. Jericho has taken over my body and is controlling it like he is the rest of the captains and vice captains. Right now those related to the Captain Commander are destroying everything in the other sections the boy hasn't been to, and the rest are being sent to Soul Society to destroy it and kill everyone there. Once I get through this barrier Jericho is going to force me to fight and kill you all. As long as you are in Lightning Country I have to kill you. If you leave that country before I can get through then you can escape. You must protect the commander. We need to return to Soul Society and protect the souls there," Ashada remarked with a frown. Akaku looked at him and said, "If I have to fight then I'm staying here and fighting you, Captain. Anyone who runs away from a battle is dishonored. I refuse to be dishonored." "Running away just isn't beautiful, Captain," Yumachika remarked. As he forced the remainder of his body through, Kenpachi, whose arms had broken through the barrier, grinned and remarked, "I'm proud to have had you serve with me." "What should we do, Ashada?" Orihime asked. "Orihime, get Naruto and Battery and go hide. Ashada said I'll leave these two to battle their captain and return to Soul Society with the others. Naruto must live at all costs. Even if we die, Jericho needs to be stopped, and Naruto is the only person who has a chance of doing it. How can you be sure? Asked Orihime. If Jericho had the ability to cause this all this time, then why didn't he did before now? Why make Naruto of all the possibilities as strong as he has? Ashada said. Pushing his glasses up, he was getting stronger every time we turned around because of something that was happening to him before even entering Soul Society. He receives his Shikai, he then transforms into his Bankai, Vizard form, and receives another power boost from Kyuubi just when it looks like we might be able to gauge his potential and power. Something happens that doubles it. I believe Kami is assisting him. Orihime bit her lip and uttered, maybe, but then the question is why Naruto? I don't know shit. Orihime. Grab him and go. Ashada said you'll be able to break through the barrier thanks to your abilities. Yumachika, Akaku, and Kenpachi are now really taking off. Staying here any longer is unsafe. Nodding, Orihime said, good luck, Ashada. Good luck, Orihime. Ashada said. He looked at Naruto and Orihime and said, I hope things work out, but I got a bad feeling this is going to be goodbye. Alright, grunts, you heard the plan. Follow me to defend Soul Society. Orihime, Naruto, and Battery ran into a cave together, with Orihime carrying Naruto and Battery following. Orihime looked around the cave, and Battery said, clear. Orihime placed Naruto on the ground, and Naruto got up and nodded to him. Orihime nodded, took out a cell phone, and said, Orihime here. Phase 1 successful. And hung up as a number of figures emerged from the cave's shadow. When a figure in Earth Country heard a beeping sound while hiding in a cave, she grabbed a cell phone and said, Sakura here, right? She then turned to face a number of black-clad figures and said, Assassination Squad, begin Phase 2. Before she heard the sounds of explosions, Sakura was left there, biting her lip and thinking, I can't believe we are doing this. The unidentified members of the second squad swiftly vanished in blurs. As more than 100 Shinigami who were not seated said, Hi, before fleeing the cave and the sound of fighting could be heard, Ino, who was hiding in a cave inside the Hokage monument in Fire Country, hung up her cell phone and said, begin Phase 2. As Ino pondered, please let this work, the Shinigami captains and vice captains, who were unrelated to Naruto, entered Soul Society through the archway as the fighting in the Elemental Nation started, only to discover that they were immobile. In front of the captains and vice captains, Tusen said, hello everyone. As he struggled to escape, Byakuya exclaimed, what is going on here, Tusen? According to Tusen, Jericho must have forgot about me. Naruto found me and changed me back when I was in Water Country. He had me hide in the Central 48 until the time was right. Why can't we move? Not that I'm complaining, Kiraku remarked. According to Tusen, it was actually a pair of girls named Sakura and Ino who came up with the idea. Ino family had the ability to take over the body of others temporarily. The more chakra they had, the longer they could hold it. Even though we can't use chakra, Sakura got the idea of finding a way to mimic Ino family jutsu. Research and development. Been working on the seal you see under your feet. We set it up that anyone who comes through this gate will be unable to go any further unless they are released, and the best part is the seal is powered by your own spiritual energy, meaning it is as strong as you are. Mayuri replied, but how did you know we would come in this gate? According to Tusen, because we were so short on members, Naruto ordered that only 2 gates could be used. The first gate can only be opened from this side, while the other gate could only be opened from the other side. That is why when Naruto brought people back here, he always had us open the gate on this side for people to come in. Anyone who opens the gate from the other side has to come in this gate as a security precaution. Now why don't you all relax? You're not going anywhere. Byakuya continued, while this seal may stop us, it does not stop the fact that not everyone is here. Those related to the Captain Commander are currently killing everything they come across. That's actually better than we hoped for, Tusen remarked. Kiraku uttered, what do you mean, Tusen? According to Tusen, Naruto believed that Jericho would wait until he believed Naruto was at his weakest before sending someone here to attack Soul Society, which is why for almost the whole battle in Lightning Country, Naruto pretends to be fighting when in reality it was Ashada fighting. Ashada said, did I hear my name, Tusen? As she approached, looking incredibly exhausted. Yes, Tusen replied, I was merely outlining Naruto's strategy. We kill hollows all the time, Ashada stated. Jericho thought Naruto would use his Zanpakuto to bring everyone back to life after they were hollows. The sole distinction is that Naruto can complete it prior to their return to Soul Society to make it seem like we were turning people back rather than just sending them here. Normally, Naruto would give me just enough energy to fire 5 shots out of every 50 I made. Of course, we had to make it believable. Hearing what was happening, all of the captains and vice captains were taken aback, and Kiraku questioned, but what is he hoping to achieve? Tusen stated, Every Shinigami is currently in the Elemental Nation. Utilizing Hollow Bait to draw in and swiftly eliminating every Hollow Naruto's battery is being recharged. He will return here once he has recovered. Use the gateway you so kindly opened for us, and proceed straight to wherever Jericho was hiding. Kenpachi was over Naruto's shoulder when he suddenly vanished, sending everyone's clothes flying in all directions as Kenpachi landed in the seal the other captains were in. Everyone was taken aback and Ashada stated, "He's definitely faster than before, and with Jericho sending all of Naruto family away to other areas, that means they can't be used as hostages." Tisk. Kiraku said Captain Commander's luck is similar to his grandfather's. Byakuya replied, "Don't tell Ichigo or we will never hear the end of it." Yachiru asked, "Baldi-kun, is Ken-chan going to be happy when he wakes up?" As Akaku and Yumachika rushed up. "No," Akaku said while we diverted his attention. Captain Commander materialized behind him and delivered a single blow that rendered him unconscious. Pumping her fist into the air, Yachiru exclaimed, "Oh my god, you hurt Kenny, you bastard, kick his ass." After everyone blinked repeatedly, Ashada said, "You can move." Yachiru said, "Oops, does that mean the game's over?" After taking a quick look around. With a raised eyebrow, Akaku said, "Game sir, what do you mean game?" Yachiru replied, "Kenny took Jericho's bite for me. He told me to pretend I was under his control like everyone else." Yumachika responded, "You mean you could have escaped and come help us at any time?" After exchanging glances with Yumachika, Akaku uttered the words, "Get her." Akaku and Yumachika were pursuing Yachiru as she started to flee, and Tusen questioned, "Why didn't the seal stop her like everyone else?" Ashada replied, "She never actually touched the seal, she was always being carried by someone." Before flashing into the village, Naruto emerged in front of Suna and declared, "I'm coming for you, Jericho." Orihime ran into a cave with Naruto and Battery in tow. With Naruto trailing behind her, Orihime looked around as they entered the cave, and Battery responded, "Clear." Orihime placed Naruto on the ground, and Naruto got up and nodded to him. Orihime nodded, took out a cell phone, and said, "Orihime, here, phase 1 successful." He then hung up as a number of figures emerged from the cave's shadow. When a figure in Earth Country heard a beeping sound while hiding in a cave, she grabbed a cell phone and said, "Sakura here, right?" She then turned to face a number of black-clad figures and said, "Assassination Squad, begin phase 2. Before she heard the sounds of explosions, Sakura was left there, biting her lip and thinking, "I can't believe we are doing this." The unidentified members of the second squad swiftly vanished in blurs. As more than 100 Shinigami who were not seated said, "Hi," before fleeing the cave, and the sound of fighting could be heard, Ino, who was hiding in a cave inside the Hokage monument in Fire Country, hung up her cell phone and said, "Begin phase 2. As Ino pondered, "Please let this work," the Shinigami captains and vice captains, who were unrelated to Naruto, entered Soul Society through the archway as the fighting in the Elemental Nation started, only to discover that they were immobile. In front of the captains and vice captains, Tusen said, "Hello everyone." As he struggled to escape, Byakuya exclaimed, "What is going on here, Tusen?" "Jericho must have forgotten about me," Tusen remarked. "When I was in Water Country, Naruto discovered me and transformed me back until the time was appropriate. He had me hide in the Central 48. Why can't we move? Not that I'm complaining," Kiraku remarked. According to Tusen, the idea was actually conceived by two girls, Sakura and Ino. The Ino family was capable of taking over another person's body in a moderate way. They could hold chakra for longer if they had more of it. Sakura came up with the concept of imitating Ino family jutsu. Despite the fact that we are unable to use chakra, the seal you see beneath your feet has been the subject of research and development. The best part is that the seal is powered by your own spiritual energy, so it is as strong as you are. We set it up so that anyone who enters this gate will be unable to leave until they are released. Mayuri replied, "But how did you know we would come in this gate?" Tusen stated, "Naruto ordered that only 2 gates could be used because we were so short on members, while the other gate can only be opened from the opposite side. The first gate can only be opened from this side. For this reason, Naruto always had us open the gate on this side so that people could enter when he brought them back here as a security measure. Anyone who opens the gate from the opposite side must enter through this gate. Why don't you all unwind now? You're not leaving. Even though this seal might prevent us, it doesn't change the fact that not everyone is present," Byakuya stated. "At the moment, those connected to the Captain Commander are murdering everything they encounter." "That's actually better than we hoped for," Tusen remarked. Kiraku uttered, "What do you mean, Tusen?" According to Tusen, Naruto had a suspicion that Jericho would send someone here to attack Soul Society after waiting until he believed Naruto was at his weakest. Because of this, Naruto has been pretending to fight for almost the whole battle in Lightning Country. even though Ashada was the one fighting. Ashada said, "Did I hear my name, Tucson?" as she approached, looking incredibly exhausted. In response, Tucson said, "Yes, I was just explaining Naruto plan." Ashada continued, "Jericho assumed that Naruto would use his Zanpakuto to return everyone back to life from being hollows, but we kill hollows all the time. The only difference is Naruto can do it before they return to Soul Society. Of course, we had to make it believable, so Naruto would give me just enough energy to fire 5 shots out of every 50 I made to make it appear that we were turning people back instead of just sending them here normal." Hearing what was happening, all of the captains and vice-captains were taken aback, and Kiraku questioned, "But what is he hoping to achieve?" Tucson replied, "Right now every Shinigami is in the elemental nation killing all the hollows as quickly as possible while using hollow bait to attract them. Naruto is having battery recharge him. After he's recharged he's coming back here and using the gateway you so graciously opened for us and take it right back to wherever Jericho was hiding with." Kenpachi was over Naruto's shoulder when he suddenly vanished, sending everyone's clothes flying in all directions as Kenpachi landed in the seal the other captains were in. Everyone was taken aback and Ashada stated, "He's definitely faster than before, and with Jericho sending all of Naruto family away to other areas that means they can't be used as hostages." Kiraku replied, "Tisk Captain Commander has his grandfather's luck." Byakuya replied, "Don't tell Ichigo or we will never hear the end of it." Yachiru asked, "Baldi-kun, is Ken-chan going to be happy when he wakes up?" as Akaku and Yumachika rushed up. Akaku responded, "No." While we diverted his attention, Captain Commander materialized behind him and knocked him out with a single blow. "Oh my god, you hurt Kenny, you bastard," Yachiru remarked. She pumped her fist into the air and said, "Kick his ass." After everyone blinked repeatedly, Ashada said, "You can move." Yachiru said, "Sorry," after glancing around. "Does that imply the end of the games?" Akaku asked, his eyebrows twitching. "Game, sir, do you mean, game?" "Kenny took Jericho's bite for me," said Yachiru. "He instructed me to act as though I was just as much in his control as everyone else." Yumachika responded, "You mean you could have escaped and come help us at any time?" After exchanging glances with Yumachika, Akaku uttered the words, "Get her." Akaku and Yumachika were pursuing Yachiru as she started to flee, and Tucson questioned, "Why didn't the seal stop her like everyone else?" "She never really touches the seal," Ashada remarked. "There was always someone carrying her." Before flashing into the village, Naruto emerged in front of Suna and declared, "I'm coming for you, Jericho." "Damn it, what's going on?" Jericho clenched his teeth and slammed his fist into a map of the Elemental Nation and Soul Society. "Why isn't the destruction of Soul Society happening? Why haven't those fucking Shinigamis sent me any reports?" Jericho froze when he heard the words, "I'm sure you will find the Shinigami are a little tied up at the moment, Jericho." "Kami, what are you doing here?" Jericho asked, turning around. "Oh," Kami said, "I just came to let you know that you should not mistreat me or the people I am protecting. That was the initial reason for Yamamoto and his wife's separation. You exacted your retribution by using my pets, the Biju. How does that differ from the actions of those two mortals?" "You can't touch me, Kami," Jericho said. "No direct impact on mortals' lives. You can't treat me badly because I'm not a mortal. I can't do anything directly to you, but that doesn't mean I can't do anything indirectly," Kami stated. "Tell me, why did Naruto keep gaining power and why did you even find his abilities mysterious?" Glaring, Jericho uttered, "It was you?" Kami smiles and continues, "Naruto Blades of Light have the power to restore a hollow back to a regular soul, while Naruto Black Blade has the ability to restore a soul." Jericho replied, "So his Black Blade has the same ability as his White Blade?" "No, Jericho," Kami said with a laugh. "His Black Blade can heal a soul. I said he has the ability to use his Black Blade to stab a soul and repair any harm done to it, such as when you bite a soul to gain control of them." Jericho said, "You?" as his eyes widened. "Yes, me," Kami replied. "I have a confession, though. You never had control over Kyuubi or the other Biju. I always knew what you were doing. They pretended to comply with your directives as a request to me." "And why would you have your pets pretend to be my slave?" Jericho scowled. "Simple," Kami said, "so that they would learn to control chakra when they were sealed inside a human. You were right that I wanted the humans in this world to be exterminated, and I do not like the idea of killing the patient in order to cure the disease, but since you were so kind as to kill everyone anyway, it doesn't matter. As we speak, those you sent to attack the elemental nations are being captured by the Biju, while Naruto secretly had his Shinigami that he freed, slaying the hollows here and sending them to Soul Society. Naruto's Black Blade will enable him to fix the harm done to every soul that Aizen caused. That boy is nothing but a failure who," Jericho remarked. "Rip a splash a thump drip a thump drip." A thump let it drip. Jericho coughed as he went into shock and turned to face his chest, where his heart was beating. In the hand attached to the heart and an arm covered in spiritual energy stood. Jericho looked over his shoulder and saw Naruto's icy eyes. "My friends and family are the light of my world," Naruto remarked. He clenched his fist, crushing the heart, and his arm was covered in spiritual energy, burning it in Jericho's body. "Without them, I am nothing but darkness that consumes everything, and yet I still exist. Even then darkness itself die." When Jericho's body turned to ash, Naruto closed his eyes and a tear trickled down them. He then fell forward, but Kami caught him and wiped the tears from his cheeks, saying, "Peace be to you, child. You did a good job." With a strained voice, Naruto questioned, "Why?" Kami gently added, "Just like every generation is tasked with surpassing the one before them, every generation has to deal with the consequences of the ones before them also. Every life is precious, even the evil ones in life. There is only balance." Jericho forgot this long ago and believed that his position made him the exception to the rule. That is why when Yamamoto and his wife first appeared, I created a system of balance to make sure that others would not fall into the same mindset Jericho had. Just like you have responsibilities when it comes to those before you, I have them as well. I have to make sure that the next generation has the tools they need to deal with the consequences of the ones before them and the potential to surpass those as well. With a voice full of pain, Naruto questioned, "Why can't you make it where there is no pain and suffering? Why make things hurt so bad?" Kami stated, "Because the greatest gift you have is the freedom of choice. You have the ability to choose for yourself, but you must also deal with the consequences of those choices, both the good or bad. How else will you grow and be thankful for the things you have and cherish them instead of becoming complacent?" After a few moments of silence, Naruto said quietly, "Is everyone alive and safe?" Kami replied, "Yes, though they are still under Jericho's control, but if you will let me borrow your power for a moment, I will use your blade to free everyone." Naruto replied, "Take it, do what you must. Power means nothing if you are alone." Before he took Naruto's Zanpakuto, Kami grinned and remarked, "You are far wiser than many centuries older than you, Naruto. I knew you were the right choice I made to bring everything back into balance." Then, everything started to glow before being engulfed in black light. Naruto thought, "What the hell did I get back here?" as he opened his eyes to find himself back in his Soul Society room. A knock on Naruto's door drew his attention, and he scowled before getting up and approaching it and asking, "Who is it?" "Didn't I teach you to detect spiritual energy?" a woman's voice asked. Siafon, Ayame, and Tenten were standing there when Naruto's eyes widened and he hurriedly opened the door. Then there was a thud, and Naruto was on his back on the ground, all three of the girls clutching him, their eyes watering. Yurichi asked, "Am I interfering something?" after hearing a cough coming from the door. Yurichi laughed when Siafon replied, "Yes. Then you should just let me deliver my message so you won't be interrupted anymore," Yurichi said. Naruto sulked and said, "Did you all have to let go? I missed you all, damn it, and I don't want to let you go again." The girls all scowled, but they all left him. Siafon glared at Yurichi and remarked, "As soon as she's gone you won't ever have to let go again." Yurichi laughed and replied, "I just came to tell you that Kami has brought back to life Captain Commander Yamamoto and his wife along with everyone who died due to Jericho." "That's good, I guess, but I got the feelings that's not all," said Naruto with a frown. Yurichi responded, "Kami decided you've earned some family time and time for yourself after everything you've been through. The pocket dimension that the Biju were in has been restored to the way it was before we sent the humans there." "That's good," Naruto said as she held up a scroll. Yurichi remarked, "I suppose so, but that's not all. Kami has left this for you and said it was your choice what to do." With a scowl, Naruto picked up the scroll and opened it. "Naruto, I want to express my gratitude once more for everything you have done. In order to allow Yamamoto to remain Captain Commander until you feel ready to take over, I have returned his life with his wife because you deserve a break. Everyone in Soul Society is aware of your actions. However, Kyuubi asked me to give you a gift in appreciation of everything you have done and the hardships you have endured. You have a choice in order to prevent everyone in the Elemental Nation from realizing what has happened until they pass away. I will stop time for them all if you accept Kyuubi's gift, send them back to the real world, and restart time. For them, it will be the day after you and Ayame and Tenten departed Konoha. You would like the opportunity to prove yourself to them without Jericho. Kyuubi reasoned you can simply remain here with your loved ones and begin your life as a Soul Reaper. If you choose not to accept this gift you have a choice. Select," Naruto said. "I choose," after blinking and glancing at the scroll.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.